Well, we are finally here. Today, I'll attempt to beat Pokémon XD using only the useless fish Pokémon, Feebas and Magikarp. If you clicked on this video, you know exactly what you came here for. That is, to see me suffer. And I guess you must be curious about whether this is actually possible or not. I've been hinting at this stupidity in the outros of the last few videos, and at long last, it's time to show off this run. I'm not even going to make the usual intro joke about the duo. No, I think, however long this video ends up being, at the time of writing I have no idea, is enough of a joke in and of itself. As usual, challenge rules are on screen now and in the description below. I don't think today's duo needs any introduction, but just in case, let me talk a bit about these two. Magikarp and Feebas are notorious for being absolutely terrible Pokémon. They have atrocious stats and, more importantly, awful learn sets. In fact, vanilla Magikarp cannot even finish Red and Blue because it doesn't learn a single move to hit ghost types with. Feebas, meanwhile, is kind of a retrain of the Magikarp concept, where a terrible Pokémon evolves into an amazing one. So it makes complete sense to pair these two together. If you assume one is not sane enough to realize how bad of an idea this is. In terms of base stats, they both have a grand total of 200s. Amazing stuff, I know. Continuing with the retrain motif, the stat distribution is different, but the values are the same. Kinda like the pairings Game Freak made with the Gen 3 Pokemon like Solrock and Lunatone, Plossel and Minun, Volbeat and Illumise, that stuff. Magikarp has 20 HP, 10 attack, a weirdly high 55 defense, 15 special attack, 20 special defense, and an impressive 80 speed. Feebas has the physical and special stats switched around. So 15 attack and 10 special attack, and 15 special defense and 20 defense. So other than their actually good speed and weirdly high defenses, which will actually come in handy, these stats are absolute trash. However much you think these stats are bad, they will be worse, trust me. But then comes the pièce de résistance. Their move pool. By level up, both Feebas and Magikarp learn exactly 3 moves. Everyone's favorite meme move Splash at level 1, Tackle at level 15, and Flail at level 30. That's it. Since XD has our starters at level 10, we wouldn't even have a move to hit Chobin's Sunkern with other than Struggle. If this was all they had to offer, I wouldn't even have tried the challenge. Completing this game using only normal type moves is, like in Gen 1, impossible, since there are mandatory ghost type Pokemon we have to face. However, there is a silver lining on the 𝗟𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 ugly scales. Unlike Magikarp, which doesn't learn any TM, Egg or Tutor moves, I'll come back to that last point in a bit, our 𝗟𝗏𝗍 does have a relatively solid move pool to draw from. Don't get any illusions, its move pool is still quite shallow. So let's go through all the moves we have access to in XD. Via TM, Feebas learns Water Pulse, Hidden Power, not even Magikarp has access to that, Ice Beam, Blizzard, Protect, Rain Dance, Facade, Double Team, and Attract. Double Team isn't technically banned or anything, but I'll avoid using it as much as possible. I'll discuss Double Team at the end, a little bit, but keep in mind I didn't use it in the run at all. Then we have the egg moves, where things get quite a little bit more interesting. There's Confuse Ray, Dragon Breath, Hypnosis, Light Screen, which it cannot learn via TM for whatever reason, Mirror Coat, and Mud Sport. Finally, there's the Emerald exclusive tutor moves, Endure, Sleep Talk, Snore, and Swift. And then there's the moves we can learn at the teacher lady in Agate. Double Edge, Icy Wind, Mimic, Substitute, and Swagger. That's every move Feebas has access to. Water Pulse and Ice Beam are fantastic options, with some other great utility moves sprinkled around here. I'll talk about those as the run moves along, with one exception, the move I picked for the starting tutor move. Honestly, it wasn't even a contest. From the start of the planning phase of this run, I knew exactly what move I wanted. Hypnosis. Yes, it has terrible accuracy, but I had a feeling we could only get through this using cheesy sleep tactics. That turned out to be quite prescient, as you'll find out. Now, speaking of the starting egg or move tutor, for Magikarp, well, technically it has none. However, since this is kind of a special run, I decided to consider any move that Magikarp can legally learn through events over the generations for this special slot. If you're thinking that's cheating, let's just assume the Pokémon HQ lab invented a time machine and gave Michael a special event Magikarp from either the past or the future in the series. Yeah, let's go with that. As the original meme Pokémon, Magikarp actually has a wide variety of event moves given to it over the years. These are Bubble, Reversal, Hydro Pump, Bounce, the latter to it can learn via TR in Gen 8 as well, and finally, the infamous University Magikarp, which has Dragon Rage. Of course, we are going with the only move that makes any sense out of all this, Dragon Psych. It's Bounce. The flying type move is the only move that is physical, not redundant, reversal is basically a fighting type version of Flail, offer the high base power and a great secondary effect, 30% paralysis chance, and also a way to deal with grass types before we get Ice Beam. With Bounce on our side, we can actually do damage to the first trainer in the game, 𝗂𝗏𝗏, without relying on struggle. Still, the trainer who's arguably one of the weakest in the history of the franchise manages to beat just a tiny bit of a problem. This is one of the few non-double battles in the game, and since Feebas is my opener, we have to switch out to Magikarp and defeat Sunkern with Bounce, since the 𝗥𝘂𝗍𝗃 doesn't have any attacking moves yet. However, this situation won't last long. When we get to 𝗥𝘂𝗏𝗃, we can finally teach Feebas its first useful move, Mimic. With it, we can mimic Magikarp's Bounce and actually do some damage with both our Pokémon. However, it's in Relic Cave where things start to fall apart. Even the first trainer, Cool Trainer 𝗥𝘂𝗹𝗲𝗀, who has a Numel and a 𝗥𝘂𝗃, proves to be a problem, since the normal type is a 4-hit KO with Bounce. We can put them to sleep using Hypnosis, but the problem is still our bottom tier damage output. Plus, after Numel's Growl, our bounces start looking a bit more like pathetic flops, and it takes a good while to actually defeat the Camel Pokémon. The next trainer, Super Trainer 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏, proves to be an even worse problem. She has 3 Pokémon, Snubbull, Corphish and a Lotad, and it's here where a tiny unexpected problem shows itself. For whatever reason, Bounce only has 5 PP, and with our stupidly low attack stat, we don't have enough PP to defeat all our Pokémon. As Scott's Tots would say, we're having severe PP problems. I try to save the situation by mimicking Corphish's Bubble, but this already weak move also hits both opponents in a double battle, meaning it effectively only has 15 power. Even with 10 total PP between Bounce and Mimic, we quickly run out of moves, and Corphish takes pathetic damage from Bubble. We get our first reset without even getting to our third Pokémon. However, this is to be expected. She is a super trainer after all. On the next attempt, I mimic Bounce instead, and we manage to get to the Lotad, which is fortunately weak to flying type moves. However, it knows Growl, which it managed to use before fainting. We eventually run out of bounces yet again, and Snubbull deals enough damage with Tackle that struggle strats are just unviable here. That's another reset. Clearly, we need more damage and more HP, so we gotta train a bit. However, I quickly find out that we can even defeat the trainer with baby Pokémon in front of the Pokémon Center, for the same reasons as before. Bounce just has too low PP, and its 15% chance to miss means that we effectively have a 56% chance of it missing at least once in our only 5 attempts. I tried battling other trainers around 𝗥𝘂𝗃 village, and even managed to defeat a few, but it was obvious there was no way we could level up even once from just a couple of battles, much less gain enough levels to actually defeat the super trainer in the cave. So, I gave up. Bounce was not the way to go. I really wanted to make it work, but it just has too many problems at this phase of the game to be worth it. So that's it, the game is impossible to finish with Feebas and Magikarp. Thanks for watching and see you next time, bye bye! Did you really think I'd give up now? Nah, of course not. Of course I had to try again with a different move on Magikarp. As probably everyone predicted at this point and has been leaving angry comments below, the actual run was done using Dragon Rage. So, let's get into it. Dragon Rage is a 10 PP fixed damage move, always healing 40 HP, which is pretty much a guaranteed 1-hit KO against every Pokémon at the start of the game. The only legitimate way to have a Magikarp with Dragon Rage is to be one of the 30 lucky winners of an obscure Gen 1 event, the Tamashii University. I'm not going to describe this in detail, you can read about it on Bulbapedia or watch a video on the subject. Point is, this is one of the rarest Pokémon in existence, and it's technically not even possible to have this specific Magikarp in Gen 3. But, I mean, throw me a bone, okay? I'm using a freaking Magikarp here. It's not an exaggeration to say Dragon Rage saved this run, especially in the early game. I'm not saying it's impossible to win with another move, but it would be much harder than it already was. So, with our University Magikarp in tow, we restart the playthrough, but now with an actual good move on our side. While we watch our fish absolutely crush everything in Relic Cave, let me talk about something I've been neglecting to mention. Growth rates. This is precisely the reason why we couldn't level up against those weak trainers around 𝗥𝘂𝗃 village. Magikarp has the slow growth rate, because of course it does. It's by far the worst in the game, being painfully brutal to level up at all points in the game. However, there's yet another silver lining in our 𝗥𝘂𝗃. It has one of the new growth rates introduced in Gen 3, erratic. This growth rate is by far the slowest in the early game, being even slower than slow. But at around level 38 it begins to pick up speed, very quickly outpacing other experienced groups. At level 70 it outpaces the fast growth rate, and starts hurling levels like there's no tomorrow. If you've watched my 𝗥𝘂𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗀 run on Colosseum, you'll know how good 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀 is in that game. Since we start at level 25, 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀 has already gone past its slower growth period. But this is not Colosseum, and we start at level 10 in this game, meaning that until the mid-game, Feebas is going to level up slower than Magikarp. Combined with its lack of Dragon Rage, and the ugly-fish is basically only able to use Hypnosis and mimic Dragon Rage to use for itself. But fear not, Feebas lovers out there, assuming there are any, I don't know. If you are a Feebas lover, leave a comment down below. This ugly duckling might never turn into a swan, but he will certainly grow himself to be the MVP of this entire run. After all that talk, we have reached the myth, the legend, Egan himself. Despite our impressive performance against the trainers in Relic Cave, we actually get a reset on Egan, with its sole level 12 Pikachu KOing Magikarp with Thunderbolt. On the retry, we just have to make sure Hypnosis hits and we are golden. After the old man is crushed, we are on our way up Mount Battle. None of these extremely easy trainers prove to be any challenge, including Bardo, the final one. After briefly going to the Cipher lab to unlock the 𝗥𝘂𝗹𝗲𝗀𝗀 cutscene, the best trainers in the entire game by the way, we immediately go right back to the volcano. There are 2 reasons for going here now: levels, which we obviously desperately need, but more importantly the TM we get from Area 2, Water Pulse. This is the only water type move we can teach in both our games, as AGMs are not in the game at all. It's a 60 power move, 90 after stab, with a 20% chance to confuse the opponent, which, trust me, any advantage we can have is crucial. The full Area 1 is a cakewalk with Dragon Rage on our side. Is what I'd like to say, but these fish are so weak that we actually got a single KO on Feebas against Vander, Area 1's leader. On Area 2 we have an hilarious Feebas mirror match against 𝗟𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. Fortunately, Area leader 𝗟𝗂𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, got these names. Okay, this is a bit off script, but I write the names, like when I'm writing the script, I write the names of all the trainers because I know they are super funny, and I often don't read them out loud until I read the script, and like 𝗟𝗂𝗲𝗀 is such a stupid name, oh my god. Anyway, fortunately Area leader 𝗟𝗂𝗲𝗀 was a complete joke with Dragon Rage and Mimic. After this incredible performance, don't get too used to it though, we teach the water type move to Feebas, finally giving him his own attacking move. Good job Feebas! Oh god, I'm still laughing. During this training session, both Feebas and Magikarp leveled up significantly, 15 and 17 respectively, and learned Tackle, which is certainly a move they can use. Okay, Tackle is a bit of a joke. I actually used Tackle a couple of times, mainly to save on PP, because Dragon Rage ran out of PP like all the time, and sometimes to save on PP I did use Tackle and Flail, but mainly on Magikarp. But yeah, Tackle is not a very good move obviously, it has 40 power, normal type, it's not a good move. Anyway, we say our goodbyes to Mount Battle for now, but don't worry, we'll be here soon enough, many times even. Back in the Cipher lab, we make short work on 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 with our shiny new stab move, still quite weak though, and our all-reliable Dragon Rage. With our overpowered Dragon Spirit on our side, we make mincemeat of the peons and R&Ds around the lab, not even bothering to heal much. This is the only moment in the game where we actually can do one-hit KOs pretty consistently, so enjoy the moment while it lasts. Deeper into the lab, however, we begin facing problems. Against Cipher pinned Solox, we almost faint because Magikarp ran out of Dragon Rage. Just the first of many similar occurrences later on. We defeat its Shadow Numel with Water Pulse, which despite the 4 times weakness to Water move, it wasn't one-hit KO'd by the Water type move. That's how weak we are. Another aside, it's kind of ironic that Feebas is using a special set when it has a slightly higher physical attack and Magikarp is the opposite. It's kind of annoying that we aren't using our best stats, but like a difference of 5 points is not really that significant. We are still pathetically weak. However, there is one thing I completely forgot to write on the script, and I'm gonna be using this opportunity to talk about it, which are the natures I chose. I chose Modest for Feebas and Adamant for Magikarp. For Feebas it makes complete sense, Feebas is not gonna be using physical moves at all, but Magikarp, I think it was a mistake giving it Adamant. I'm gonna talk a bit more about this in the Postmortem section, but just keep in mind, Magikarp, although it's Adamant, that was a little bit of a mistake. Anyway, a little bit after our encounter with Solox, we face Cipher Peon Digor, and here Magikarp gets a one-hit KO by an Anabra's Thunder Punch, which forces our reset. This guy is optional though, and we can avoid him by not opening the chest in the healing room. Now that I'm reading the script, oh god, this script is having so many asides. Anyway, this is the first time where we face a member of the 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 family using Thunder Punch, and this is gonna keep happening tons of times until the end of the run. 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗃, the 𝗟𝗏 family with Thunder Punch are like an absolute menace for Feebas and Magikarp. And these guys are gonna cause so many resets and so many problems for us. And this is like the first time this happens in the run. It's kind of an omen for what's gonna happen later. So yeah, keep in mind, I hate 𝗟𝗏𝗃s, Kadabras, and Alakazam with Thunder Punch. After the Ailing Room stuff, we have the Minimoss Naps, who ends up bringing Magikarp's HP down to only 3 points, but we manage to defeat him without a single KO. Around this time, you'll notice that Magikarp has leveled up to level 20, which is when it's supposed to evolve into the mighty Gyarados. However, for this playthrough, I decided to change the game's code a little to prevent Magikarp from evolving at all. There are 3 reasons for this. The main one is that it would be unfair if only Magikarp could evolve, since Feebas cannot evolve in Nora at all. The Prism scale doesn't exist in Gen 3, the only way to evolve Feebas is to level up its beauty stat, and since we can't do that in XD, Feebas cannot evolve natively in Nora. Okay, so I checked Bulbapedia, and a Feebas with high enough beauty can evolve. I think it can evolve in the Aura games, but since it can't natively increase its beauty in these games, using my current rule set, I couldn't evolve this Feebas unless I change the game in some way. So yeah, Feebas, I couldn't evolve it. The second reason is that I personally think a Pokemon should not be penalized for being a first stage evolution and having to waste time cancelling the evolution. And third, this is just purely for my sanity. Mashing the B button dozens of times throughout the run seemed like a perfect way to annoy me. Those are the main 3 reasons, and I know some people disagree with this change, so you can leave a comment explaining why I'm wrong. I'm not sure at this point if I'll do anything similar in future runs in XD, or if this was a one-off, but for this run, Magikarp and Feebas both cannot evolve, and I have removed their evolution conditions from the game's code. What's definitely a one-off is using an event-exclusive move. Well, at least I hope so. The Dragon Rage plus Mimic combo is indeed potent, but we are finally starting to see a few opponents with more than 40 HP. So let's see how our amazing strategy up to this point fares against the first boss of the game, Lovrina. The Cipher admin opens with Love Disc and Beautifly, 2 Pokemon not exactly known to be particularly powerful. We use Dragon Rage on Beautifly, not quite KOing it, and copy the Dragon-type move with Mimic, while the Insect answers with Absorb on Magikarp, dealing about a third. Love Disc just uses a weak tackle, and that's when I realized this fish can't really do anything to us. So I focused all my attacks on the second slot of the battle, making quick work of Roselia and Delcatty in quick succession with Dragon Rage. Finally, the Love Fish is left alone and completely incapable of doing anything, so we handily defeat it. Our time at Lovrina is 52 minutes. Side note, but I really dread the day when I have to play with Love Disc, especially in Colosseum. This Pokemon is awful, probably the weakest fully evolved Pokemon in Gen 3. But that's a problem for future Trites. Current Trites has to go to Pyrite Town, where we do our story errands and visit all the Pokespots. At the Cave Pokespot, we have the first run-in with the Disco Ball Man himself, the one, the only, 𝗟𝗶𝗶𝗀. He sets up his customary Rain Dance, which gives me the chance I need to talk about something I've been neglecting to mention all this time, their abilities. Both Feebas and Magikarp have Swift Swim, which doubles our speed in the rain. This ability is quite decent, but since both fish are quite fast, and we are gonna be overleveled throughout the entire run, there's really no reason to try Rain Dance strats. The move is also a bit of a pain to get in XD, unlike in Colosseum, so the only time we'll see our abilities being activated is during fights where the opponent sets up the rain. And you know who loves to set up the rain in this desert region? That's right, it's 𝗟𝗶𝗶𝗀. Him using Rain Dance is almost a self-inflicted joke, since we'll still outspeed his Lombre. We easily defeat 2 of them, but the third one uses Mega Drain on Feebas, leaving us close to red health. Thank God for that extra buffed special defense. Thankfully, his Shadow Voltorb uses Shadow Rush on the higher defense Magikarp instead, leaving us with an opening to snag it. We then make short work of the last, still sleeping Lombre. I snagged Voltorb because of its magnet, which boosts the power of electric type moves by 10%. But some of you might be thinking, but right, these fish don't learn any electric type moves. And you are absolutely right. But some might have figured it out already. My hidden power type for Feebas is electric. I chose electric because we are going to have access to ice type coverage pretty soon, and electric pairs very well with that. I considered hidden power water, so we could skip water pulse. But a slight increase in power is not substantial enough to really matter. And since we'd have to do Mount Battle either way, we would always have access to water pulse. I hoped hidden power electric would give us much needed coverage later in the game, which as you'll see will prove to be very much true. Also, Keep Mirror B and Rain Dance at the back of your mind, because it will be important much later on. While I was waffling on, Cipher invaded ONBS, and it's our job to save everyone. Cipher Peon's Lodash Shadow 𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀 managed to bring both Feebas and Magikarp to just 1 HP, the lowest possible margin before a single KO, but we prevailed. I was running high after this close encounter, and climbed up to the roof of the building thinking nothing of it. But here, our relatively uneventful streak of wins comes to a screeching halt. Meet Cipher Peon Feldas, an otherwise very unassuming peon. But this guy is absolute menace to our fish. He always opens with Fluffy and Kadabra. These are two stupidly powerful Pokemon. Fortunately, this Kadabra doesn't have Thunder Punch, but it's still a menace. On the first attempt, Kadabra one-hit KOs Feebas with Psybeam with a crit. Unfortunate, but not really a problem. However, on the second attempt, the true scale of this wall became apparent. Neither Kadabra nor Fluffy are one-hit KO'd by Dragon Rage, and even Kadabra's weaker confusion is enough to strip more than half our HP, not to say anything about the ship's Thunder Shock. Plus, Kadabra is one of the few Pokemon that can outspeed us, meaning we are badly outmatched here. And we aren't even past the first two Pokemon. He has a Vigoroth and a Shadow Waltz next, both of which might prove to be a problem. At reset number 5, I decided this was too difficult for us, so I went down to the Pirate Colosseum to train. Round 1 was going very well, but Chaser 𝗥𝘂𝗀𝗀𝗀 has a team consisting of none other than the freaking sewer rats, Plusle and Minun, which obviously just destroyed us with Shockwave and Spark. Twice. But the important part is not that we could complete the Colosseum, is that we got a few more levels on the fish, 23 on Feebas and 25 on Magikarp, so I returned to ONBS and to Feldas. This time, things are much different, because Magikarp now outspeeds Kadabra. This means that we can consistently defeat him, and in this attempt, Feebas bravely hung on after Confusion and Thunder Shock with only 1 HP, but his Hypnosis crucially missed on Fluffy for the first time, and it woke up after just 1 turn, meaning we got another reset. But finally, on reset number 7, the stars align. Feebas tanked Kadabra's Confusion, and despite our Hypnosis missing on Fluffy, the ship just used its weak tackle instead of Thunder Shock on Magikarp. From there, our subsequent Hypnosis kept it dreaming about androids for a while, so it took the time to mimic Dragon Rage and dealt with Vigoroth. Finally, the Shadow Waltz came out, but Fluffy never woke up and Waltz is actually super weak. As you can see, Hypnosis was absolutely crucial in this battle. And trust me, it won't be the last. After defeating Feldas, we have to face the mini-boss of ONBS, the buff Cipher Commander 𝗥𝘂𝗀𝗲𝗀. Compared to his minion, this guy wasn't too difficult. We just had 𝗥𝘂𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗃 take a nap while we dealt with the rest of his Pokemon, including the dangerous Raichu, which never was too much danger. Our time is 1 hour and 24 minutes. After 𝗥𝘂𝗀𝗏𝗀𝗀, we are directed to Phoenix City, where things are starting just a little bit off for some reason. But we don't have time to dwell on it, since we are redirected to Realgam Tower. I stopped by Agate to teach Icy Wind to Feebas, but immediately regretted it since this move is just terrible and we'll be getting a much better Ice type move in just a little bit. In Realgam, I buy TM10 Hidden Power and teach it in place of the move I just learned, and then return to Phoenix. We soon discovered that the inhabitants of the entire city have been replaced by Cipher Thugs, so it's our job to get to the bottom of things. The first series of mandatory peons are not much of a threat at all. That is, until Faustin at the end of the pre-gym, who has another Kadabra, of course, and a Misdreavus with Shockwave. He deals massive damage to Feebas, which is then KO'd by his Sneasel's Aerial Ace. Magikarp alone could have handled this, if not for Meowth's Shadow Rush critting just at a crucial moment. What terrible luck. On the next attempt, we managed to win by using a strategy I had been concocting for a while now, setting up. If you're writing an angry comment about me breaking the rules and using X items, I'm actually not going to be using them. See, in Pokémon XD only, by using the call option on the menu on a non-shadow, non-sleeping Pokemon, it increases their accuracy by 1 stage. I didn't explicitly ban this option in my rules because this is literally just a menu option, it's a feature exclusive to XD, and honestly I think it makes the game more fun, since it allows us to use otherwise useless inaccurate moves, and isn't as broken as using an X special, for example. That said, I can understand if you think this is not in the spirit of the run, but let me know in the comments what you think about it. Either way, all increasing our accuracy does is make Hypnosis more consistent. A 1-stage accuracy increase gives us a 33% increase in accuracy, which makes Hypnosis now have 80% accuracy. Now that I'm writing this script, I realize I could have used this strategy with Bounce before, which would have made it 100% accurate, but I don't think it would have really made that much of a difference. Anyway, all this talk about setting up with Hypnosis is kind of irrelevant, since Kadabra immediately KO'd Magikarp with Thunder Punch, after Sneasel used Fake Out. It was only on our 3rd attempt at Faustin that we got the win. Without setting up, we put Kadabra and Misdreavus to sleep, and picked off the rest of Faustin's Pokemon using Dragon Rage. Unfortunately, Misdreavus woke up just at the worst time and KO'd the weak Magikarp, but Feebas managed to handle both it and Meowth alone. That's our first single KO for Magikarp, believe it or not. The next mandatory trainer is Greg, in front of the Phoenix Stadium, from whom we went to snag Swinub for the Never Melt Ice. We have another reset, with Hypnosis missing a bunch on the peak Pokémon, but on the next attempt Feebas hung on with 6 HP and we completed the snag. Before we face the boss in the stadium, there's the Shadow Spearow and Shadow Grimer trainers back to back. On the first battle, Feebas got paralyzed and put at half health, but we managed to move every time and dished out Hypnosis to both Stantler and Grimer. Magikarp picked up the slack, and even after Feebas was KO'd, he managed to defeat the Sludge Pokémon. Good job, Magikarp! Before the next Cipher admin, I stopped at Real Game Tower to buy a couple extra TMs, just in case we needed them. Finally, at the center of Phoenix Stadium, we have the second boss of the game waiting for us. Before him though, we have to face Cipher Peon 𝗥𝘂𝗹𝗲𝗀. Great name by the way. This guy wasn't ever a threat in my previous runs, but he does have 4 Pokémon, including a Shadow Seal, which he went to snag for its Mystic Water. Graveler was a 1-hit KO with Water Pulse, and Hoothoot is pathetic, but Gulpin has Shockwave, which dealt great damage to Magikarp before fainting. We managed to hypnotize Seal, snagging it immediately after. After 𝗥𝘂𝗹𝗲𝗀 is cleared, we can finally face off against Cipher admin Snattle. However, with Magikarp almost KO'd, I knew I wasn't going to win this in a million years, so I just tested some damage ranges and tried to gain some XP before Magikarp went down, and I had to stall until both Feebas and Seal fainted. That's a very rare blackout outside Colosseums. Now, with the Mystic Water securely on our side, we can actually start talking about this battle. Cue the intro. Snattle has 5 Pokémon: Lantern, Quagsire, Metang, Castform, and the Shadow Lunatone. I tried him a couple of times, but it was obvious you wouldn't be able to do this at this level. His Lantern can immediately one-shot Magikarp with Shockwave without batting an eye. So, with the clock approaching 2 hours, I made my way to Mount Battle to train, where he got immediately trounced by Area 3's Raichu, causing another reset. So I returned to Phoenix to face off against the many peons around the city. Here, Magikarp finally learned Flail at level 30, which is a move we can use. Actually, no jokes this time, Flail will be important later on, so keep it at the back of your mind. I tried Snattle again at this level, but Shockwave was still a 1-hit KO, so I decided to try something different. I might be able to luck through this, I thought to myself. And so, when Feebas turned 30 levels old, I thought it Blizzard. My idea here was for Blizzard to freeze either Lantern or Quagsire, ideally Lantern. To call this unreliable would be an understatement. In a double battle, Blizzard has around 19% chance to freeze one Pokémon each time it's used. We are shooting for a 1 in 5 chance here. Now, I'm not gonna bother describing every single reset we get against this guy, or in the entire rest of the run, for that matter, because we'll literally be here for hours. That said, all these resets did give me some useful information. This Lantern is easily the most threatening Pokémon in Snattle's team. It has a lot of HP, requiring 3 Dragon Rages for the knockouts, and that's our best move against it, since it has Volt Absorb, making it immune to our Hidden Power Electric. If we had chosen Hidden Power Grass, this would have been so much easier. However, there is a ray of hope. Now that Magikarp is level 31, something interesting happened. Shockwave became a range. Lantern doesn't always target Magikarp with Shockwave, sometimes hitting Feebas instead, which gives us a precious opening. But if it does hit Magikarp, it can survive with very low HP, and you know what that means? It's Flail time! In one attempt, Magikarp got to only 1 HP, meaning his Flail had the max 200 power. But even then, it wasn't all that powerful, and obviously, Quagsire's Ice Punch KO'd it immediately. Using this strategy, our path to victory is now Blizzard freezing Quagsire and Lantern hitting Shockwave and leaving Magikarp with 2 or 1 HP for a max powered Flail. And on reset 22, the stars align. Not perfectly, since Magikarp is left with 6 HP, but we finally got the freeze on Quagsire. A Pokémon has 20% chance of defrosting each turn, meaning on average they stay frozen for 5 turns. I attempt to put Lantern to sleep, but Hypnosis missed. It should have been it for this attempt, but Lantern used Shockwave on Feebas instead, meaning we are still in the game. I defeat Lantern with Dragon Rage and successfully put the incoming Lunatone to sleep, but Quagsire decided to defrost then and KO'd Magikarp. So close! After that defeat, I decided that this Blizzard strategy was way too silly, so I rethought my options. My mind quickly scanned through Feebas' entire moveset, which is pretty small as you know, and I finally remembered the move I had been neglecting so far. I made a trip back to Gateian Port, defeated this random buff sailor who now has pathetically weak Pokémon, and learned the move that saved this entire run, TM45 Attract. Attract is a 100% accurate move that infatuates the opponent. This is a volatile status condition that prevents the Pokémon from moving 50% of the time. However, a Pokémon can only attract an opponent that's the opposite gender. From this point on, I'll start mentioning which opposing Pokémon are female, since those are the ones our male fish can infatuate. Just an aside, both Feebas and Magikarp are male, specifically because the Eevee you start with in Pokémon XD is always male, and so just like in Colosseum, to keep our start Pokémon as similar as the original starters in the games, my Pokémon are always going to be male. Fortunately for us, and like in the main series games, in Nora all opponents use a team of mixed male and female Pokémon, so we'll always have at least one target for attract. That said, as you'll see later, sometimes the female Pokémon aren't gonna be sent out in battle in opportune moments. That will complicate things a lot. Plus, since Shadow Pokémon are randomly generated each time the battle is reset, we may get a female Pokémon sometimes, and sometimes we may get a male Pokémon. Remember this quirk because it will be important later on. Anyway, on Snattle's team, the female Pokémon are Lantern and Castform, and since Lunatone is genderless, that quirk with the Shadow Pokémon is not really gonna be applied here. On our first attempt with Attract, things go much better for us. We managed to infatuate and put Lantern to sleep, defeat 𝗂𝘂𝗲𝗄𝗃 and only lost because Lantern woke up too soon and moved in for the KO. This definitely seemed like the winning strategy, so I committed to deleting Blizzard for Attract and kept trying. On turn 1, Feebas attracted Lantern, while 𝗂𝘂𝗲𝗄𝗃 fortunately missed Rock Tomb and was hit by a powerful Dragon Rage. On the next turn we hit 𝗂𝘂𝘲𝗃 with another Dragon Rage, but it still survived, hitting Rock Tomb on Magikarp while Hypnosis missed on Lantern. The light Pokémon moved through the infatuation, but only hit a Shockwave on Feebas, who survived with about half HP. On turn 3, we finally defeat 𝗂𝘂𝘲𝗃, bringing out Lunatone. Hypnosis finally hit on Lantern, giving us a precious opening. With Lunatone out, I focused my moves on it, trying to prevent it from activating Shadow Sky. Unfortunately, our combined Dragon Pulse and Dragon Rage are barely enough to defeat it, and now we have the weather condition on the field. In case you don't know how it works, Shadow Sky is a unique Shadow move that is kind of like a Shadow version of Sandstorm or Hail, but that only damages non-Shadow Pokémon. This annoying move will come back a few times in further battles, so keep it in mind. Basically, it means we are on a timer now. On the next turn, I finally start damaging Lantern with Dragon Rage, while Feebas defeats Lunatone with Water Pulse. Out comes Castform, which is the other female Pokémon on Snattle's team. On turn 6, I take the chance to infatuate it, preventing it from moving, while I hit Lantern with Dragon Rage, who by some miracle remains snoozing. Now I can defeat Lantern safely with Dragon Rage, while I put Castform to sleep. Out came Metang, but Feebas is down to only 12 HP after 4 turns of Shadow Sky, which means we'll die with just one hit. On turn 8, Magikarp hits a powerful Dragon Rage on the Iron Claw Pokémon, leaving it well under health, with Feebas' Water Pulse further putting it in the red. Castform remains snoozing, but Metang brings out a powerful Thunder Punch. I thought it was all over, but Metang hit Magikarp instead, who, because of Metang's trash special attack, survived with 11 hit points. Phew. That was a close one. That was also the last turn of Shadow Sky, which means now we only have to deal with these two. Metang was KO'd by Dragon Rage, but Castform took uninspiring damage from Water Pulse. I continued to pound it with our moves, bringing it to red health, while it remained snoozing. However, I eventually run out of Dragon Rage, and it ends up being Flail that brings out the Weather Pokémon. Our time at Snattle is 2 hours and 30 minutes. By now, Plusle and Manam had finished the game. Oh dear. If you think this guy was hard, yeah, it gets worse. Much, much worse. Before leaving the Phoenix Stadium, I grabbed 2 very important items, a PP up for Dragon Rage and TM13 Ice Beam. This is by far our best move, having the highest base power and giving us precious Ice-type coverage with a chance to freeze to boot. However, since we cannot relearn it very easily, I decided to hold off on teaching it for now. With Phoenix behind us, we enter what I call the mid-game slump, as we have a long stretch of the game where battles take a backseat in favor of story progression. One of those few mandatory battles is against Chobin. Yes, Chobin, where Feebas actually gets KO'd by a combination of Gyarados Trash and Sunkern's Mega Drain. Magikarp managed to clear the battle against his evolved form, but this wasn't a good sign for the fight to come, because right after this battle against Chobin, we have a much more difficult battle against his Mecha Persona, Robo Groudon. He opens with Sunflora and Gyarados. The water type is female, so I infatuated her using Attract. Unfortunately, that didn't prevent her from moving, hitting a powerful Trash on Magikarp, dealing over half max HP. The pre-evolved form hit a powerful Dragon Rage on Sunflora, who just used Sunny Day, but now Water Pulse is weakened. Continuing my strategy of incapacitating Gyarados, I hit it with an Hypnosis, while Sunflora falls to another Dragon Rage. Replacing the flower is our kindred spirit, 𝗂𝗶𝗶𝗀. On turn 3, I hit the splashing Pokemon with Dragon Rage, while mimicking it with Feebas. Unfortunately, 𝗂𝗶𝗶𝗀 did not use Splash, but instead Leech Seed off Magikarp, which thankfully just missed. This turned out to be quite fortunate, because we could now KO the Cottonweed Pokemon and start dealing damage to Gyarados. Sadly, it woke from its snooze on this turn, but it was still immobilized with Attract. On turn 5, the newly arrived Tropius became the target of our combined rages, putting it down with a sliver of HP. It just used Razor Leaf, which although super effective, is pathetically weak in doubles, dealing about a fourth to Feebas and even missing on Magikarp. Sadly, that was just about enough for Gyarados to move through the infatuation and hit Feebas with Trash, immediately KOing it. Magikarp was once again all alone, but it managed to push through, defeating Tropius on the next turn and barely surviving Gyarados' Trash, who got confused in the process. My next Dragon Rage should have been it, but Gyarados survived with a sliver of HP. My only chance to win now would be for Gyarados to hit itself in confusion. Which it did. Phew, that was another close battle. On Kamiko's basement, we grab a precious rare candy, talk to Makan, and after getting our bike upgraded, we can go to the SS Libra. I end up taking the chance to buy some vitamins on Finneck, 2 iron for Feebas and 2 zinc for Magikarp, to boost their defenses on their weakest stats. The battle against Morton on the ship was a bit hairy, with both our fish getting down to yellow HP, but we endured. During our exploration of the ship's hull, we find some more iron, 2 PP ups which I use on Dragon Rage, maxing out its PP, and some other useful items to sell. But by far the most important item we pick up here is the leftovers, dropped by Bonsly. This item will be fundamental to give us precious healing throughout the main harrowing battles ahead. Although it contradicts Magikarp's old flail thing, since we don't have a better item for it, I give the Carp the leftovers. Having healing is so much more important than a move that's gonna prove to be very unreliable. But don't think that's the last you'll see of flail in this run. Outside the Cipher kill area, we watch our 𝗟𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀 getting trounced by the Zangoose healing Zook, and next is our turn. To no one's surprise, Feebas gets immediately one-shot by Shadow Rush. And to add insult to injury, Magikarp even gets frozen by Doduo's tri-attack. At the time, I didn't remember we can just lose this battle without affecting the story, so I take a reset here. And good thing we can, because otherwise this battle would be nigh impossible at our current level. Anyway, I do the blackout on the next attempt, but it still feels quite awful. But don't worry, we'll wipe that smug of Zook's mug in due time. By the way, since you are on a little bit of a lull on the video, let me do something a little bit different this time. If you're enjoying watching this video so far, please consider subscribing, leaving a comment and sharing the video with people you think would enjoy watching it. These videos take a long time to make, from the idea to completion, and especially this one, with such a massive script, and then I have to edit the audio, and then edit the video all by myself. This takes massive amounts of time to make, and although I do it for love, I would like people to watch them, of course, so every bit of support you can give me is highly appreciated. With all that out of the way, let's continue the story on the outskirts stand, where we have to pick up 𝗟𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀 from Hordle. But first, we have another match against 𝗟𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀. Just like in the first battle, we have the speed advantage since both Feebas and Magikarp have Swift Swim. But these Lombres also have the super effective Mega Drain on their side. Our usual combo of Attract, Hypnosis, Dragon Rage and our recently obtained leftovers are enough to defeat 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗍 without much trouble. At this point, I thought we were in the clear, and we could safely leave the outskirts stand with 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. However, Rider Willy, yes, him, challenges us to a battle we can't refuse. I hadn't healed after 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, but sure Willy of all people won't be a problem, right? Well, as it turns out, if I run out of Dragon Rage, Magikarp becomes a sitting fish, and after an icy wind that lowered our speed, and a couple of headbutts later, it eventually fell to Linoon. Obviously, we now have 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 in our party, so we gotta call stall until both it and Feebas are KO'd, which takes a few turns. I was hoping this battle was like Zook's, so I almost had a heart attack when we respawn over on the outskirts stand. Would really be a wall for us and leave a soft lock here? But thankfully we can just waltz right past him after our pathetic loss. He'll keep his smug look, for now at least. After dropping 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 in the PC, we head over to the Snagem hideout. Thankfully, we get a precious break from the back-to-back difficult battles here, with the first 2 mandatory battles against 𝗥𝗂𝗶𝗁𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 being easy. We also face the optional Golett, who after being defeated gives us access to another precious rare candy. Surprisingly enough, I need to talk about our favorite trainer in XD, Biden. Even though everyone thought he was done for after facing Zook and his dirty tactics, but this old fox still has some gas in the tank. The problem is his Bellossom, who is quite bulky and has Giga Drain, a terrible combination to be faced up against. I just played terribly here, with Biden even using Cut against us for a turn. But my move choice was so atrocious we ended up losing. On the second attempt, Biden wasn't so nice to us, with Feebas being easily KO'd by Giga Drain after some cheap damage, but not before confusing Crobat. Magikarp was left alone, and I thought it was all over after getting hit by Giga Drain, but it survived on 4 HP and defeated the Flower Pokémon. The no longer confused Crobat moved on the next turn with Astonish, and surely this would be our end. But Magikarp survives with 1 HP after Leftovers recovery. Another win with the smallest possible margin of victory, albeit with a single KO for Feebas. Next is 𝗏𝗂𝗋's Deputy Shift 𝗏𝘂𝗋𝗋, who opens with 2 Gloom, both of which have Giga Drain and make quick work of Magikarp. Great. So how are we gonna get past this one? Well, abusing 𝗟𝗂𝗄𝗃 Hypnosis plus attract Strides on the next attempt. But don't feel too bad for 𝗏𝘂𝗋𝗋, because he too managed to put Magikarp to sleep, and I totally forgot to use Call on it to wake it up. We end up defeating 𝗏𝘂𝗋𝗋 with almost full health on both fish, but honestly that was more luck than anything. With 𝗏𝘂𝗋𝗋 cleared, it's time to face Team Snaggen's head, 𝗏𝗂𝗋. The problem in this battle is very simple. Electrode is faster than us and can one-shot either fish with Spark. That's it. There's also Nuzleaf with Fake Out, which can ruin our Hypnosis plans extremely easily. There really was nothing we could do here, so back to training we go. And the best place to train now is obviously Mount Battle. Fortunately, Area 3 is now much more accessible to us, including that pesky Raichu right at the start. However, it's not all sunshine and roselias for us. Against Area 3's leader, Taria, we have a reset due to her being the Guardian of Shockwave. That's an unofficial title. That's just the TM she gives when we defeat Area 3. With every Pokemon on her team carrying the electric type move. Luckily, she only has 3 Pokemon, so this was totally doable, although Magikarp took another sad casualty. Area 4 is equally easy, right until Zone 33 and Newscaster Edin, who has a Gloom with Giga Drain. Yes, that whole menace again. On the next attempt, we managed to eke out a win, but Magikarp still fainted after Ariadu's Signal Beam, despite it targeting its higher physical defense. Remember, bug moves deal physical damage in Gen 3, so Signal Beam is a physical move. This thing truly has pathetic defenses. Area leader Boyden was quite easy, and we finally hit level 38, over another damage running threshold. Incidentally, this is also the level where Feebas' erratic growth rate finally starts kicking in, and from now on, our ugly duckling will start gaining levels much faster than the carp. But don't think for a second this will make the run easy or anything. Unfortunately for me, 𝗏𝗋𝗋's Electrode has 89 speed, and we had 84, still a bit away. Even after Magikarp leveled up to 39 against a random trainer in the hideout, it still only had 87 speed, definitely not enough. Both Feebas and Magikarp could now survive a Spark, sure. But even after attempting this battle 7 more times, it was clear we were getting nowhere fast. With the clock fast approaching 4 hours and with 40 resets to our name, we are back on Mount Battle to train. Sadly, we are kind of an awkward place to train here. In XD, for whatever inexplicable reason, there are several massive jumps in levels from area to area. From area 4 to 5, for example, the levels jump from around 30 to around 41. Because of that, we make very slow progress on area 5. We black out on zone 44 due to a Grovyle with Absorb, and then again on zone 43 due to Leech Seed from Skiploom. In an attempt to gain some more XP elsewhere, we return to Outskirts Stand to wipe the floor with none other than Rider Willy. I told you we'd get our revenge. Now, after all this training, at level 41 we return to 𝗏𝗋𝗋. Now that we could finally outspeed Electrode, we had a chance at victory. However, the outspeed didn't magically solve the situation. That's because, even after getting past the Electrode, all of 𝗏𝗋𝗋's other Pokemon know Hyper Beam, which although has historically been weaker than expected, we are still using very weak Pokemon here. His Vileplume also knows Giga Drain, which even Feebas has trouble thanking. And finally, the only female Pokemon on his team is his ace 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, which means our cheesy attract strats won't do us any good here. While we watch some B-roll, I'll describe what our path to victory here is. On turn 1, we target Electrode with Hypnosis and Dragon Rage. What happens next depends on who Nuzleaf targets with Fake Out. In either case, we can KO the ball Pokemon with 2 Dragon Rages. If Nuzleaf targets Magikarp, Feebas can put Electrode to sleep. If Hypnosis fails, Feebas can survive Electrode's Spark. The worst case scenario is if Electrode targets Magikarp with Spark. We can also luck out with Magikarp surviving here, but that would leave us in a very bad position. If, on the other hand, Nuzleaf targets Feebas with Fake Out, we skip the Hypnosis on Electrode entirely on the next turn and just KO it with Dragon Rage. Spark also can't paralyze either fish for this to work. Oh, and even after getting Electrode out of the picture, we need Nuzleaf and the upcoming Vileplume to stay snoozing, otherwise everything could fall apart. Great. Using this strategy on reset number 46, we finally get the luck we need. Hypnosis hit on Electrodes, and I use Call on Feebas to set up our accuracy for later. Nuzleaf's Hyper Beam chops off more than half HP from Feebas, but Electrode keeps snoozing and is now only at half HP. On turn 3, I defeat the ball Pokemon, while Hypnosis missed on Nuzleaf, who was busy recharging. On the next turn, Nuzleaf shoots Hyper Beam again, this time on the Carp, doing just over a quarter max HP due to our higher physical defense, while Vileplume is hit by Hypnosis and Dragon Rage. While the flower Pokemon snoozes, I take out another 40 HP chunk out of it, while Nuzleaf is also put to sleep. No, I'm not playing with a sleep clause here, both Pokemon can be asleep at the same time. I take the chance to KO Vileplume and put the incoming 𝗟𝗂𝗃 to sleep. Nuzleaf then wakes up and misses Hyper Beam, a very welcome stroke of luck. But it's here that things begin to fall apart. Despite our setup, Feebas' Hypnosis misses on Nuzleaf, and it decides to target the ugly duckling, instantly KOing it. Magikarp has a good chance of doing this alone though, being able to KO 𝗟𝗂𝗃, and since it has good defenses it can survive the Hyper Beams, but they are taking their toll. I decide to target incoming 𝗟𝗏𝗄𝗃 due to its lower HP stat, but annoyingly it has just over 80 HP, meaning we are slowly chipped away by the combined power of Gonzaps's Hyper Beams. We manage to get Nuzleaf standing alone, but it easily KO'd us with Feint Attack. If only Magikarp could learn Protect. Honestly, that move alone would make these useless fish so much better. Despite being a loss, that battle told me this strategy was definitely viable at this level. We just needed a little bit more luck to squeeze through, and it wasn't long after this frustrating loss that we got it. On reset 50, we once again put Electrode to sleep, but this time I gambled and decided to set up our accuracy we call twice. This way, Hypnosis has 100% accuracy, and we don't need to worry about it missing at crucial moments. And that gamble paid off. On turn 3, we have a snoozing Electrode, a quite damaged Nuzleaf, a Feebas with 100% accurate Hypnosis, and little damage to our name. I immediately start the snooze fest, KOing Electrode and putting Vileplume to sleep, while tanking Nuzleaf's Hyper Beam. By turn 5, the wily Pokemon is also sleeping, and the Vileplume only has half HP. I take the flower Pokemon out in the next turn, but Nuzleaf wakes up. But it just targets Magikarp, letting Feebas survive another turn by putting the incoming 𝗟𝗃𝗃 to sleep. On turn 7 we put the wily Pokemon to sleep, while doing more damage to the 𝗟𝗃𝗃. Nuzleaf keeps on snoozing, we defeat the Whiskers Pokemon, and out comes the Ace 𝗟𝗏𝗃, which is also put to sleep. I decide to get rid of the Nuzleaf for good on turn 10, and now we are 2 against 1. I take my time setting up a tract, but 𝗟𝗏𝗃 could do nothing to us, and we finally defeated Gonzap at 4 hours and 20 minutes. Good riddance. After Gonzap, we make our way to the Cipher 𝗂𝗃 to deal with the other trainer we left hanging, Zook. I wanted to snag in Zangoose for the Silk Scarf, although we never actually used it, but despite our massively increased level since last time, we are still faced with a big hurdle. Zook's team is big and has quite strong Pokemon, and we just can't deal enough damage to them. We have a quick reset where our Attract luck just didn't work for us. On the winning battle, Zook opens up with Zangoose and Doduo. Thankfully, Doduo is female, so we can put it to sleep, while Magikarp deals damage to Zangoose. It replies with Shadow Rush, dealing just over half to Magikarp. We have to snag it on the next turn, or we lose. Thankfully, we do snag it, and out comes Carvanha, while Doduo is further incapacitated by putting it to sleep. Take the time to set up Call with Feebas, while Carvanha deals weak damage to us. After that I take out both Doduo and Carvanha without much difficulty, being replaced by Relicanth and Seviper. The fish is put to sleep, but the snake uses Poison Tail on Feebas, poisoning it. Fortunately, Relicanth keeps on snoozing, and after dealing with Seviper, a combination of Dragon Rush and Water Pulse deals with the ancient fish. With Zook being dispatched, we can finally invade the second to last dungeon of the game, Cipher 𝗂𝗃. I kept myself straight on the critical path, since we don't need to grab Thunderbolt. Against 𝗟𝗶𝗄𝗃, god, another name. Against 𝗟𝗶𝗄𝗃, the first trainer in the game with 2 Shadow Pokemon, we actually get a single KO on Feebas, and Magikarp is nearly defeated by his paras of all Pokemon. Just goes to show just how weak these two are. We lost to a damn paras. Come on. Against 𝗟𝗶𝗄𝗃, we get a couple resets due to bad luck against Beedrill's powerful Shadow Blitz. If you're thinking I should get rid of the weak Bug type right away, think again. One of the stranger side effects of this pathetic run is that we are so bad that our opponents can actually use their strategies effectively. For example, Locke here uses Furret and Togetix's Follow Me to redirect our moves to them and avoid us eating his frail shadows. We have another silly reset against 𝗟𝗶𝗄𝗃 because I forgot to heal Dragon Rage's PP. Whoops! However, this trainer is a much bigger problem than I initially expected. Our jump bluff has 𝗟𝗂𝗃, a death sentence when we can't deal a lot of damage. Ninetales loves setting up safeguard, meaning our Hypnosis will miss, and Tangela's Shadow Wave is actually extremely powerful. The solution to his battle ended up being our good all reliable Hypnosis before Ninetales hits the field, both on jump bluff and Tangela. After Targ, we arrive at an already familiar face, or I guess helmet, to us. Cipher Peon Snidle. Remember this guy? He has a 𝗟𝗔𝗀𝗃, and we have no moves that can hit it. Well, except for that one move I have been carrying since the beginning of the run, Mimic. I have a quick reset here because I keep forgetting Mirror Coat can reflect fixed damage moves. But on the next attempt, we put 𝗟𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗃 to sleep and have to slowly defeat each of his Pokémon in turn, waiting for 𝗟𝗔𝗀𝗃 to use Aerial Ace. After it finally uses a super effective flank type move, we can just use Mimic on it and then have a quick win. Against the Cipher Peon Engic on the factory's rooftop, we have another reset due to Hariyama's powerful Arm Thrust. Another case of me being too confident in our useless fish. We only win the next attempt by abusing Hypnosis and having a ton of luck with it not missing. Cipher R&D 𝗥𝘂𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗱𝗀𝗀 is next, and here we have the great pleasure of one-hit KOing Camerupt with Water Pulse, which was super satisfying. We haven't had a one-hit KO in a while, and remember, Numel back on the Cipher lab wasn't a one-hit KO with Water Pulse. So basically this just goes to show that Feebas has increased the level, and all the EVs we have been collecting throughout the run means that we are starting to deal a little bit more damage, especially when it's 4-time damage. We can do relatively consistent one-hit KOs. However, Feebas also gets very close to fainting due to Sidrus Twister, of all things. If you don't know, Twister affects both Pokemon in double battles, so it has effectively 20 power. It's a very bad move. Very bad. Against Smarten, we have a stupid reset because I forgot to heal Feebas. But we win on the next turn, also by the skin of our gills, with the ugly duckling almost getting KO'd. The next admin is a member of the 𝗟𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗃 fan club, so after healing our fish, I wanted to be sure we could handle the powerful ground type move. I teach Protect to Feebas in the place of Mimic, and also switch the items around, giving it leftovers, which synergizes better with Protect and Feebas' weaker physical defense. Now we are ready. Well, as ready as you can possibly be by using these two, to face the third Cipher admin. Gorrigan. He always opens with Lairon and Celio, both of which are fortunately female. As expected, this fight is not a cakewalk. Even Celio, his weakest Pokemon, can deal a third max HP to Feebas with Earthquake. However, Magikarp doesn't have the luck of learning Protect, and our 55 base defense can only take us so far. Plus, it's not only the Earthquakes that are the problem. Slowking's Confusion is somehow more threatening, since it can deal significant damage to Magikarp and confuse us too. I tried 5 times to defeat Gorrigan, but it became clear our defenses were just too pathetic to tank the massive Earthquakes being shot our way. I decided to switch the items around, giving Feebas the Mystic Water and Magikarp the leftovers, hoping this would allow the orange fish more survivability and Feebas the one-hit KO on Lairon. The latter proves to be true, which gives us a bit more maneuverability in this battle. However, after another 3 resets, I decided that this just wasn't going to happen at this level. We need to train more, so once again, we are going to mount battle. Fortunately, we are now strong enough to take on Area 5. Is what I would like to say, but we got trounced on Zone 42 due to Ariado's powerful Nightshade. On the second attempt, I managed to defeat her, but the entire area wasn't easy. I got a single KO for Magikarp and then Feebas on the next 2 trainers, then resets on zones 47 and 48. The other leader, Kalos, has a Grovyle with Leaf Blade, an instant KO for Magikarp. To top it all off, it's male, so we can't even use Attract here. After 2 resets, we defeat her using our typical strategy. Set up with Call, use Hypnosis and hope for sleep and Attract Luck. After doing all of Area 5, we got a boost to level 48 on Magikarp and 51 on Feebas, so we are back to the key lair to try Gorrigan again. With our extra levels, things go much more smoothly. We immobilize Celio on turn 1 and also do a little bit more damage to it with Dragon Rage, while Lairon protects. The Iron Armor Pokemon is still a one-hit KO, while Celio remains unmoving. Out comes Slowking, which takes in a well-timed Dragon Rage. The King is also a threat because of Confusion though, so I immediately try for Hypnosis and Dragon Rage. The sleep-inducing move misses, meaning we are exposed to the Psychic type move, which in combination with Celio's Earthquake puts Magikarp down to under half HP. Fortunately, the Earthquake also damaged the Psychic type, but it survived on red health. On the next turn, I defeat Slowking with Water Pulse and damage the incoming Ursaring with Dragon Rage, while Celio is immobilized for the third turn. Remembering Ursaring also loves to protect, I take the chance to protect with Feebas, making their moves miss, dealing another chunk of damage to 𝗟𝗟𝗄 with Dragon Rage. It's immobilized again, so although we take no damage, we wasted that turn with Feebas. I take the next turn to deal with the dangerous bear, while 𝗟𝗟𝗄 continues to collaborate and doesn't attack. Out comes the Shadow Primate. We thankfully roll a female one, so I use Attract on it plus Dragon Rage, while 𝗟𝗟𝗄, you know, continues being in love with my ugly fish. I deal with Primate on the next turn, bringing out Hypno, who is also female. Our exceptional Attract luck finally runs out with 𝗟𝗟𝗄 attacking. Its Earthquake puts Feebas under half, but sadly deals only a tiny bit of damage to his own Hypno. We move to strike the top here, but its high defenses let it tank our moves easily. It replies with Shadow Storm, one of the strongest shadow moves in the game, putting both Feebas and Magikarp at around 25 HP. Things aren't looking good. 𝗟𝗟𝗄 returns to its infatuation, with it not using Earthquake for the 7th time in this battle. Then, I do one of the stupidest moves in history, using the resisted Water Pulse on 𝗟𝗟𝗄, which obviously does pathetic damage, while Magikarp deals with Hypno with Dragon Rage. But joke's on me, because 𝗟𝗟𝗄 actually got confused off of Water Pulse, and it's itself in confusion, and we finally managed to defeat it on the next turn. We deal with Gorrigan at 6 hours and 22 seconds. A very lucky battle, but a win is a win. Just so you know how lucky this was, and what type of luck we need to actually progress through the game, 𝗟𝗟𝗄 tried to attack us 10 turns, it got immobilized on 7 of them, attacked 2, and 1 rolled Confusion. Since Confusion rolls first, we don't actually know what would have happened that turn, but the probability of moving through the infatuation only 2 turns in 9 attempts is only 7%. Crazy stuff. That said, we are also trying battles over and over and over again. So eventually, we are kinda destined to get lucky against these trainers when we try many times, but we do need quite a bit of luck to actually... After Gorrigan is defeated, we go on a shopping and rare candy collecting spree. We first collected the rare candy on Cipher Killer, along with a few other items to sell, then stopped at Pyrite Town to collect 2 battle CDs, numbers 22 and 40, one in the roundhouse to the right and the other inside Ducking's cave hideout thing, and finally stock up on healing items for the upcoming Trudge on 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗃. And what are we doing with these battle CDs? Playing them, of course. The rewards for these 2 specifically are 2 rare candy, and after completing battle CD 40, you get an extra battle CD, which also gives you a rare candy. For CD 22 I had a failure, which I'm not gonna count on Normatics, although it would basically be a drop of water in the ocean. The solution is to use Grudge with Bayonet to deplete Gyarados Earthquake PP and defeat it with Plusle's Thundershock. Then, on Zangoose, use Encore to keep it stuck using Swords Dance and slowly chip away at it. As a certified Plusle and Minecraft expert, as I was writing this script I noticed something peculiar, and indeed, Plusle has never been able to learn Thundershock. So this Plusle has an illegal moveset, just another of the many illegal movesets in Aura, I suppose. Battle CDs 40 and 41 are much less interesting. They are just a battle of the Kanto vs Owen starters. I did lose a few attempts, but not because these require some high-brained play. The solution is just to make smart switches, to play around with type effectiveness, and use good moves against the opponent. With all 3 CDs cleared, we have our precious 3 rare candy, and we're off for the final area of the game, 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗃. In a normal playthrough, this area is around half the playtime because of how many Shadow Pokémon we have to snag here, which is about half the total in the game. However, in both XD playthroughs I've completed so far, 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗃 was only around a quarter of the playtime in both, around 40 minutes, because we basically aren't snagging any shadows. So how do you think it's gonna go for our 2 fish? 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗃 was a nightmare. Even the first trainer, Sailor Abson, leaves Feebas on red health, and we only won because his Shadow Golduck happened to be female. That showcases a very serious problem that will become worse and worse as we progress to the island. There are so many shadows here that our attract strategy starts to become unreliable. Since shadows are randomly generated on each attempt on a trainer, at any point they may be male or female, and that completely changes which strategy we can use. Plus, since shadows are generated with random IVs and natures, they are in general stronger than non-shadow Pokémon, which always have 0 IVs and neutral natures. After clearing the weak trainers of the first room of 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗃, we have our first rematch against the Cipher admin, 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏. Historically, this battle has been pretty easy. By the time we arrive on 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗃, we are massively overleveled and can trounce 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏's entire team. However, you know that getting too comfortable with this pathetic fish is never a good idea, and 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀 here served us some piping hot 𝗟𝗂𝗲𝗀. The problem here is her two openers, 𝗟𝗂𝗲𝗀 and 𝗟𝗶𝗀𝗀. The psychic type has massive special attack, and also our good old friend Thunder Punch on its moveset, which, don't forget, is a special move in Gen 3. This means the electric type move, even on especially bulky, in quotes, Feebas, deals around half HP, and on Magikarp the damage is around 3/4 max HP. Plus, 𝗟𝗂𝗲𝗀 has fantastic special defense, meaning our water pulses are going to do pathetic damage to it. Then we have 𝗟𝗶𝗀𝗀. Since it's female, it sounds like the weak spot on 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀's team we can exploit. However, this is very much not the case, because of a move we are all very familiar with at this point, Attract. Yes, this strange pink fish is using the same strategy that has carried the two useless fish this far. We all know firsthand how devastating getting immobilized by Attract is. Either Feebas or Magikarp getting hit is a huge death sentence. Plus, 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀 is a water type, so it's not like we can defeat it easily either with our current moves. Plus, to somehow make things even worse, if we manage to defeat either 𝗟𝗂𝗲𝗀 or 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀, our third Pokémon is a Roselia with Leech Seed and Magical Leaf. Leech Seed is essentially a death sentence because it sticks around even after Roselia is KO'd. Despite Feebas being 17 levels above our team, we get completely destroyed on the first attempt. Each of our 3 Pokémon is completely unsafe for us to set up on, and in any other team should be eliminated as soon as possible. However, we can only deal with one of them per turn, leaving the other to do massive damage to our strategy. 𝗟𝗂𝗲𝗀 directly, 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀 by incapacitating us, and Roselia by setting up Leech Seed and using Magical Leaf. So how the heck are we gonna get past this seemingly innocuous trainer? The first thing I do is teach Feebas Hidden Power Electric and give it the magnet. Fortunately, it does enough damage to deal around 2 turns max HP to 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀, which can then be KO'd by Magikarp's Dragon Rage. A good sign for sure, and in the next attempt we manage to get to our Shadow Farfetch'd and then to the Altaria. However, it's not like these guys are any easier. Both have powerful Shadow moves, namely Farfetch'd, which has the ridiculously powerful Shadow Break and is holding the stick, making it more likely to land critical hits. Altaria itself is also quite bulky, needing 4 Dragon Rages for the KO. The move that has saved this entire run is now starting to really fall off. Oh dear. I tried the battle a few more times, and although we can often get to the Farfetch'd, we are severely bruised by that point and our strategy can collapse at any moment due to a stray magically from Roselia or us just being immobilized by Attract. I decided changing strategy was needed, so I went back to Gateian Port to get a very important item. Inside his house next to the parts shop there's 𝗥𝘂𝗃, the reporter whose daughter we met at the beginning of the game. Earlier in the playthrough, she sent us a message saying she wants to have an interview with us, and it's now time to fulfill her request. Why? Well, this is a bit of an hidden side quest in XD that I think many people don't know about. Depending on how we answer our 3 interview questions, we get one of 3 items, but we can only get one of them. If we answer no to all of them, we get a quick law, which you don't really need in this playthrough since our speed is quite good already. If we answer yes to one of our questions, we get the 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀, which could potentially be useful. Although not many trainers in XD lower stats, and we don't have access to a move like Overhit, which lowers our own stats. We are actually after the third item she gives us, the Mental Herb. It's usually a very situational item, but it's useful precisely in this situation. It cures the user of infatuation. Funnily enough, I messed up the question, so I got the 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 instead, causing another reset. Oops! After the embarrassing display on that interview, I went back to Mount Battle to do some more training, starting on Area 6. Zones 51 and 52 go well, but Matron cracks on Zone 53 as our old enemies Kadabra and Fluffy, both of which can deal massive damage to Magikarp. After 2 quick resets, we finally managed to win by exploiting our good old friend Hypnosis. On Zone 55 we face another big problem. Rider Jason has a particularly annoying team consisting of Pokémon with Explosion and then Ghosts. We get a quick reset after his coughing blows up and KOs both of us. But that's not really the problem with this zone. The problem is another old friend of ours, 𝗟𝗍𝗀𝗀𝗀. Yes, this guy has another 𝗟𝗍𝗀𝗀𝗀. We got rid of Mimic before Goregan, so we cannot defeat this 𝗟𝗍𝗀𝗀𝗀 and thus cannot proceed up Mount Battle. Fortunately, this is not critical, as Area 6 isn't a massive level jump over Area 5. I decide to go back down to the previous area and train here instead. We have another reset on Zone 44 because of Groovewild's terrifying Leaf Blade one-shotting Magikarp. And on the next zone, Magikarp gets another single KO due to Raichu's Thunderbolt. Area Leader Kalos also causes another couple of resets and a single KO for Feebas due to our annoying Rock Tombs. After this is done, we get up to level 57 for Feebas and 50 for Magikarp, equipping our precious Metal Herb on the ugly fish, and we're off to fight the pink-haired Cipher admin again. We have a bunch more resets against 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀, trying out different strategies, so let me explain our path to victory now. Magikarp can only tank one Thunder Punch or Magical Leaf, so we are hit by one, we are basically toast. We also have to infatuate 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀, hope for its collaboration, and then when it finally uses Attract, it must do so on the fish holding the Mental Herb. Because otherwise the chances of us missing a move and getting way too much damage done to us increases exponentially. Roselia is also a mega menace with both Leech Seed and Magical Leaf, although neither are a death sentence if used just once. Farfetch is annoyingly arranged with Hidden Power Electric and Dragon Rage. Finally, after another 14 resets on 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀, seeing as this strategy wasn't working, I decided to stop being stubborn and finally taught Ice Beam to Feebas. Only after doing so did I realize that Ice Beam is actually amazing for this battle. It can 2-shot Roselia and Farfetch'd, and 2-shot the quadruple weak 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗃. If only I had realized this sooner, I could have saved so much time. On our first attempt with Ice Beam, as usual, I attracted 𝗟𝗏𝗀 on turn 1 and hit God of War with a Dragon Rage for just over a third. The Psychic type hit Magikarp with a Thunder Punch, putting us close to red health, while the pink fish is immobilized. On turn 2, I focus on getting rid of the Embrace Pokemon using Ice Beam and Dragon Rage, while 𝗟𝗏𝗀 continues being immobilized. Out came Roselia. On the next turn, our Ice Beam deletes almost all of the Thorn's Pokemon HP, with Magikarp coming in on the follow-up with Dragon Rage. We now have eliminated our two biggest threats, but Magikarp is very close to fainting. 𝗟𝗏𝗀 finally moved, hitting Attract on Feebas, who is immediately cured with the Mental Herb. On turn 4, I'll focus my attacks on the newly arrived Farfetch'd, with Ice Beam almost KOing the duck, and once again Magikarp completing the KO. 𝗟𝗏𝗀 moves once again, attracting Feebas, so things are a bit more complicated now. Fortunately, on turn 5, Feebas moves, hitting a massive Ice Beam on 𝗟𝗏𝗀, just barely missing the KO, but freezing the humming Pokemon for style points. Magikarp hit 𝗟𝗏𝗀 with Dragon Rage, dealing just under half HP, with a pink fish using Confusion on Feebas, doing practically no damage. With 𝗟𝗏𝗀 frozen, we have the leeway to focus on 𝗟𝗏𝗀, and even with the resisted Ice Beam, our combined 2 moves are enough for the KO. 𝗟𝗏𝗀 remains frozen, and so it is easy pickings for our fish. Our time at 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀 is 7 hours and 25 minutes. That's how much Ice Beam improved our chances in this battle. With 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀 behind us, we proceed into the bulk of 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗃. While we watch some more b-roll, let me discuss my moveset choices at this point. Writing this script after the run is completed, it's very obvious that although Water Pulse served us very well throughout the mid-game, it has pretty much run its usefulness at this point. Ice Beam is more powerful and has a better typing to boot. The only reason to have Water Pulse this late in the game is for rock types, namely Goregan's Lairon, but he's behind us now, and it's not like we couldn't handle other rock type threats with Ice Beam. I honestly think many of the resets we had were due to my insistence on keeping Water Pulse on our moveset for so long. Still, at the time, I was very worried about moveset flexibility. Hypnosis and Attract are the backbone of our entire strategy, and we can't reteach Ice Beam without grinding a lot in mod battle. So whenever we need Hidden Power Electric or Protect, Water Pulse will have to go. Using our normal strategy, we slowly crawl our way up Cipher's depressing island. Reset number 95 is another silly one. It happens just before the healing machine next to the lava waterfall, because I thought there was a ceiling jumper there, and so I spent our precious ether on our fish. Whoops, saying that a lot today, I'm sorry. After some more mandatory trainers, we are skipping almost all optional trainers here for now, because mod battle is a much better place to train. We arrive at the mini-boss duo of Carbon and Petrol, who have Shadow Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee respectively. These are back-to-back battles, meaning we cannot heal in between. We have a quick reset against Carbon due to Medicham's incredible Brick Break, making short work of Feebas. On the second attempt, we managed to clear Carbon, but with both our fish bruised, Petro, who has a much larger team of 5 Pokemon, is a massive challenge. Because both Hitmons are always male, and they are the only Shadow Pokemon on their team, we can't even use them as attract targets. On Carbon's team, we can infatuate Xatu and Golem, although it is an easy 1-hit KO with Water Pulse, a rare place where the Water-type move is still useful. On Petro's team, we can infatuate Skarmory and Hariyama, none of which are particularly good targets. On our third attempt, we managed to squeeze by to the Shadow Hitmonlee with only Magikarp still alive. But then we come up against another annoying problem. We run out of Dragon Rage right at a critical juncture. Don't forget, at this point in the game, Dragon Rage is pretty much a 3 or 4-hit KO on almost every Pokemon, so we are constantly running out of the 16 PP we have access to. Hitmonlee is at red health, but we have -4 defense due to successive Shadow Downs, so make your bets. Will our Flail be enough to defeat it? And well, of course it's not. Although actually by only a sliver, and the fighting type just KOs on the next turn. So frustrating. This was probably a range and we could potentially have beaten Carbon and Petro right here. By the way, if you're wondering if Tackle would have been better, we had 63% HP, so our Flail had 40 base power, exactly the same as Tackle, but without the 5% chance to miss. We had no chance here other than a better range. On the very next attempt, we managed to squeeze by Carbon with Magikarp only on half HP, after Golem had hit a 5 hits Rock Blast on Magikarp. Against Petro, I take my time to infatuate Skarmory and set up with Call, then get rid of the Metang, and slowly but surely get rid of Hariyama and Skarmory by relying on our infatuation/sleep combo. Hariyama eventually wakes up and moves, KOing Feebas with a powerful Brick Break. Magikarp is all alone once again in only 3 Dragon Rage to spare. Hitmonlee is exactly a 3-shot with Dragon Rage, so he needed to use useless moves at least twice. I gamble on it since in the battle before it went for Shadow Dawn twice, but this time it didn't. It used Shadow Half. Shadow Half is a move we don't often see being used, because at the point in the game where Shadow Half is a move in the Shadow Pokemon moveset, we pretty much can stop the game. Shadow Half is a move that works kinda like Super Fang. It halves the HP of all Pokemon in the battle, including the user's own HP. However, it actually takes a turn to recharge, which is a very unique effect. By using Shadow Half, Hitmonlee lowered its HP enough that our subsequent Dragon Rage KO'd it. Finally, a lucky break. Our next big hurdle is technically an optional battle against Gromlet, the buff Cyperpeon guarding 3 Pressure Rare Candy on the Spiral Pathway on the Moving Block room. Against his large team and final Wailord, which we have no good moves against considering its water type and massive HP, we managed to squeak by on low yellow HP, which was quite surprising. Again, this was a place where Hidden Power Electric would serve us much better than Water Pulse. I grabbed the PP Max on the balcony, using it on Ice Beam, and then make our way to the room with the holes on the floor, now crossing it to the 8-hour mark of the run. The first trainer here is 𝗥𝘂𝗲𝗲𝗀, who despite only having 3 Pokemon has an annoying combination of Lantern, another bulky water type, and Magneton, both with powerful stab electric moves. His Shadow Lickitung is no slouch either. Well, I guess it kinda is, Lickitung isn't very good, but the electric moves beforehand are enough to put us at low HP, and eventually get our 99th reset, and then the 100th reset, and then the 101st reset against this random Cipher Peon I never really thought much about. I never really expected this guy to be a wall, but alas, Magneton's Thunder can just outright delete Magikarp from the battlefield. Only on our 4th attempt did we manage to defeat this guy, and only because Magneton used Metal Sound on Feebas and Lantern stayed asleep for a good long while after that. Leden at the end of this room before the elevator also proved to be a minor annoyance. Although our Stantler is female and mostly collaborated, Magikarp just took too much damage from Stomp and eventually fainted due to her Chansey's Shadow Wave. Oh yeah, this is the Chansey trainer, a stupidly bulky Pokemon with massive HP and special defense, and now we have to defeat her using Feebas, using only special moves. Oh boy. Fortunately, our first Ice Beam froze Chansey, and so we got into this absolutely ridiculous situation of having to KO Chansey by slowly dealing chip damage over and over again. Our Ice Beams are looking like a 10 hit, and Chansey eventually defrosted and started attacking with stronger, single target Shadow Waves, putting Feebas in the red. Fortunately, at a critical juncture, she used Shadow Hold instead, giving us the extra turn we needed for the KO. We finally made our way to the top of Citadel Isle, with only the final boss rush left. But can we actually complete the game? None of these trainers proved to be much of a challenge before, but considering how this run has been going so far, this might be too much of an impossible wall. It's time to find out if the fish have what it takes. Snattle is the first major trainer in the game with 6 Pokemon, 2 of them being Shadows. We lose our first attempt, despite getting a lucky freeze on 𝗥𝘂𝗲𝗄𝗏, and our second due to Caesar getting a Silver Wind Omni Boost. But at least we found out a few important pieces of information. Metang's Thunder Punches, like we had seen before, aren't really that threatening due to its low special attack. On the other hand, 𝗥𝘂𝗲𝗄𝗏's Mud Shot, although not that strong, is actually quite threatening because it robs us of our speed advantage, and that cast form is actually a real menace with Thunderbolt. On our 3rd attempt at Snattle, I focus all my attacks on 𝗥𝘂𝗲𝗄𝗏, defeating it in 2 turns, with Feebas getting down to half HP after 2 Thunder Punches from Metang. The incoming female Caesar will be our lame duck, stuck with infatuation, while we deal with the rest of Snattle's team. And believe me, this Caesar is probably of the same breed as 𝗿𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 𝗠𝗂𝗀, because it almost never moved through the infatuation. We took a while to deal with Metang, giving it time to bring Magikarp down to half HP and paralyze him, as well as put Feebas on low yellow health. Solrock also survived our Water Pulse, managing to set up Shadow Sky, which takes bits of our HP away each turn. When Cast Form came out, I immediately put it to sleep and chipped away at it with Ice Beam and Dragon Rage. Rage. Finally, his Ace Starmie came out, and we dealt with it much the same way, Hypnosis and then Ice Beam / Dragon Rage. Again, if I had Inner Power Electric here, this would have been much easier. Finally, Scizor moved after 7 turns of immobilization, but Magikarp survived their Silver Wind, and we managed to clear the Snattle rematch at 2 hours and 21 minutes. Again, a very lucky battle, but we kind of need some lucky breaks here and there to even proceed through the game. After coming out of the Snattle battle, all that stands between us and victory are 6 battles. Ardos, the Gorrigan rematch, the Ductriopion, Eldas, the Shadow Lugia, and Grivel. After this relatively quick Snattle fight, I was starting to feel pretty confident we could actually win this. However, I should have known this. Putrid anchovies are masters at giving me false hope and then snatching it away. I'll come right out and say it. Ardos was a nightmare. I don't think you're prepared for just how bad he was. The first battle against him shows exactly how terrible he is. He always opens with a Shadow Swallow and Alakazam. The very fast bird will always set up Shadow Sky the first turn it moves, and Alakazam has amazing special attack and also carries the menace that is Thunder Punch, which unlike Metangs in Snattle's team can outright one-shot Magikarp. Even if you put Alakazam to sleep and defeat it, Ardos' next Pokemon is Kingdra, a bulky water type with only a weakness to Dragon, and who has Dragon Breath, a decently powerful stab special move with 30% chance to paralyze. Oh, and remember Swallow? It has Shadow Off too, which it will immediately use after Shadow Sky to cut our precious HP reserves in half. These two moves combined means this single stupid bird can deal a death sentence to our putrid anchovies in 2 turns without even attacking us. And when it does attack, his Shadow Break, the strongest physical shadow move in the game, apart from the inaccurate Shadow End, can just delete Feebas. Oh, and even if we get to its 4th Pokemon, Heracross, it can both KO our weak fish with Brick Break or use 180 base power Mega Horn after stab. This stupid beetle is surprisingly bulky as well, so it's not like we can KO it immediately. Things aren't all terrible though. Both Kingdra and Heracross are female, and the Shadow Swallow, Snorlax, and Electabuzz have a 50-50 shot of being female too, so we can at least use Attract on those 3. Oh yeah, did I forget to mention Electabuzz and Snorlax? Surprisingly, the electric type is the least threatening Pokemon on Ardos' team. Since Shadow moves don't have types, we don't have to worry about a stab super effective Thunderbolt, which would be absolutely devastating here. But its Shadow Break and Shadow Storm can deal good damage, and it also has Shadow Off for good measure. But Snorlax has Shadow End, the strongest Shadow move, and you know it can decimate both fish. The only respite is that it only has 60% accuracy and deals 50% HP as recoil. Phew, that's a lot of terrible Pokemon in one team, and pretty much no kink in his armor. At this point in the run, I hadn't yet realized just how dire the situation was going to be, so I kept trying Ardos over and over and over again. I have 6 resets before realizing we just couldn't make it with our current level, so we had to train some more. On our way through the shortcut out of Citadark, I faced the technically optional Cypherpion Clef, who has a team of extremely bulky Pokemon in Shuckle, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, and Weezing. He wasn't hard or anything, but 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, like the Chansey before, was a pain to defeat. I'm just talking about him because this is a trainer I probably will never face again unless I use another terrible pair of Pokemon. The problem with training now is that annoying Shedinja on Area 6. The only way to deal damage to him now is Swagger, since we can't reteach Mimic. And as mentioned before, the only move we can afford to forget is Water Pulse. Although it has served us well, it has long since run its course, so it's finally time to let our stab move go. We go back to the teacher lady in Agate and replace it with Swagger. But you know, the most ironic part of all this turned out to be quite pointless, as you'll see in a bit. Due to our increased damage output, Area 6 up to Rider Jason was now easy, and although it did manage to use a +2 Shadow Ball on us, his Shedinja eventually fell to the self-inflicted confusion damage from Swagger, and the rest of the team was quite easy. The rest of Area 6 was also breeze, but area leader 𝗵𝗵𝗏. Okay, 𝗵𝗵𝗏 is like the worst names in XD, 𝗵𝗵𝗏. Okay, but 𝗵𝗵𝗏 gets us multiple times by setting up Sunny Day and using Solar Beam with all his Pokemon. I end up winning only by mobilizing Explode and getting lucky with hits and an overhit miss. This is the guardian of overhit, so that's why he uses overhit. The point of defeating that Shedinja was to reach Area 7, and since that's done, Swagger will no longer be useful to us. I retaught Hidden Power Electric to Feebas for more coverage, especially against water types. However, I quickly realized Area 7 was way too much of a level jump for us, so that was another blackout. So the whole Swagger saga was just a waste of time. Now let's do a quick fire list of faults during this long grinding session. Since Area 6 is permanently impossible to complete now, I end up training on Area 5 a total of 3 more times. Just so you know how bad we are, I have another single KO on Magikarp on the Raichu trainer, despite our way higher level, and a few other close calls on him as well. I also have a reset against Air Leader Claws on our final training session here. At the end of our training, Feebas was level 72, while Magikarp was a whopping 10 levels below him. But we also very crucially got 8000 Poké Coupons, which means we can buy one of the precious held items sold here on Mount Battle. Here I make what I consider to be a big mistake in retrospect. I bought Focus Band, thinking we could use it to have Magikarp survive a KO and exploit Flail's maximum power. I'll discuss other options I could go with in the Postmortem. At the end of our training, the clock has ticked well past 9.5 hours. Although Ардous still wasn't looking great, all that training wasn't in vain, and I could see a few rays of hope peeking through 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 dark clouds. The strategy for a while became getting rid of Swallow as fast as possible and let 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 hit Magikarp and hope for the strongest possible flail. I even put leftovers on Feebas precisely to avoid Magikarp healing so we could have a stronger flail. This didn't really pan out, however. Although Magikarp could now survive 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀's Thunder Punch with around 20 HP, meaning Flail would now have 150 power, it was still disappointingly weak on anything not named 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀, since the rest of Ardous' team have decent defenses. Then there's Swallow, who stubbornly refused to be one-shot by Ice Beam consistently. Sometimes we rolled better, or I guess worse, IVs and or natures on it, and it would be a one-hit. If only I could one-shot it consistently, this battle would drastically change. When he did get the one-shot, I could make it all the way to the 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀, albeit with so little HP that I couldn't do much with the opportunity. On reset 127, I decided to bring out an old strategy I had tried before, the Blizzard Freeze. Yes, I know it's silly now, but at the time I was desperate. Naturally, after trying this a few dozen more times, I realized the same thing I had realized back on Phoenix Stadium. Blizzard is just too inconsistent to be used like this. Even when we got the lucky freeze, like on our very first attempt, when 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 got frozen and he got to Snorlax for the first time, things just didn't pan out that well. Blizzard just missed a whole bunch after that, and our targets could just defrost at any time. I tried giving all of our 9 rare candies to Magikarp to see if that helped somehow, but this didn't really help the smelly carp that much. The real problem with this Blizzard strat is that it seemed to be more successful than our previous strategies. Whenever we got a freeze, we could usually make it all the way to the 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, and sometimes even Snorlax. But it was a false sense of progress. We were relying too much on just dumb luck to make it through this, and not even the freeze was a guarantee of success. Like, we are rolling for a 19% chance of freeze, and then we are rolling constantly a 20% chance of defrost every turn. Like, that's really bad odds, and clearly this wasn't the best strategy. Finally, on reset 148 and the 41st on Ardous, I finally decided to go train on Mount Battle again. By the way, blackout training isn't very useful in XD, because we are sent directly to the Pokémon HQ lab after doing a blackout, unless we are in the Colosseums, so blackout training here isn't really the best solution either. I tried Mount Battle Area 7, but as expected this was still too much for the putrid anchovies, so I returned to where we were once happy, Area 5. I do another 3-4 rounds here, training until Feebas was level 78 and Magikarp level 66, which took another extra 40 minutes. After that I started to get a bit bored, so I went back to Citadel to clear some optional trainings here we skipped before, and then made my way back to Ardous. Finally, things start to go better for us, with Feebas now one-shotting Swallow with Ice Beam consistently, and Magikarp's Flail actually doing some significant damage now. With Kingdra collaborating and good move luck, we managed to get to the Snorlax, but it refused to get snagged, and sadly we lost immediately. It was then that I remembered the trick I still had up my sleeve, which I'm gonna be calling Shadow Locking. Instead of constantly rolling for new shadows each time we start a battle, with completely different genders, IVs and natures, I could take the blackout and that would lock those shadows as they were for the rest of the game. The only problem with that strategy is that I couldn't take it back, so I'd need to play with the hand I was dealt. Since this particular Swallow was a one-hit KO with Ice Beam, and I got a female 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 and Snorlax, I decided to Shadow Lock Ardous and try my luck with this strategy. After attempting Ardous a couple of times again and reteaching Blizzard, seriously, why did I insist on using this? I decided to go back to Mount Battle to train yet again, until Feebas got to the next damage rolling threshold at level 80. With all that done, we returned to Ardous for the final time. Our training does help a lot with damage, with Blizzard now almost KOing Swallow, but it also comes with a serious downside. 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀's Thunder Punch now leaves Magikarp in yellow HP, making its Flail only 80 base power. Way too weak to be useful anymore. He might have overshot it a bit with the training. Combined with Feebas now holding the leftovers, this meant we were way more advantaged by having 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 target Feebas instead. After a few dozen or so tries, seriously, this was getting ridiculous. I spent so many attempts on this guy. We finally get a winning battle. Feebas KO Swallow on turn 1 with Ice Beam, as expected, while we target 𝗟𝗂𝗋𝗃𝗃 with 2 Dragon Rage with Magikarp. The 𝗥𝘂𝗃𝗃𝗃 is mobilized with Attract, while the Psychic type used 2 Thunder Punch on Feebas, putting us around the 3rd HP. On turn 3, I used Blizzard, which in this case was quite useful, taking a chunk out of 𝗥𝘂𝗃𝗃's HP and KOing 𝗟𝗂𝗋. 𝗥𝘂𝗃 didn't move, so Magikarp was free to target it with Dragon Rage. Out comes 𝗟𝗂𝗋. I used Blizzard and Dragon Rage again, putting 𝗥𝘂𝗃 at low red HP, and 𝗟𝗂𝗋 I Thunder off. This time it moved, using Dragon Breath on Magikarp, paralyzing it. Things aren't looking good and I almost reset here, but then the bug type missed with its powerful Mega Horn, giving me the leeway I needed. On turn 5 I managed to KO 𝗟𝗂𝗋 with Ice Beam. 𝗥𝘂𝗃 didn't move and Magikarp targets incoming 𝗥𝘂𝗋𝗃 with Dragon Rage. On the next turn the Dragon type still isn't moving, so I target 𝗥𝘂𝗋𝗃 with both 𝗟𝗪𝗋𝗋s, actually getting a sneaky freeze, but Dragon Rage KO'd it right after, so we couldn't really use it for anything. Out comes Ardos's ace, Snorlax. Fortunately, after the Shadow Lock, Snorlax can be immobilized with Attract, and 𝗥𝘂𝗃 still isn't moving, so I KO'd it with our Paralyzed Fish. For the first time we are 2 against 1, and now it's a matter of being patient. I knew I wanted to snag Snorlax because of its precious leftovers, so I slowly whittled down its HP until it got low enough to make the snag possible. It still escaped the ball, and then the bear moved, using its powerful Shadow End to instantly KO Magikarp. So I gambled on Hypnosis hitting, which it did, and fittingly enough, I snagged the snoozing sleeping Pokémon, finally putting an end to this absolute torture of a trainer. The time at Ardos was 11 hours and 52 minutes. Total amounts of resets here? I don't know, about 50 or so. Truly deserving the title of the 𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 actually have a game to finish. After the Blue Sun was defeated and rudely getting glass blocked by 𝗟𝗏𝗀, we must face the next Cipher admin, 𝗟𝗂𝗀𝗀. This guy didn't give us that much of a trouble the first try, but I've learned to never underestimate a member of Teddiursa's Earthquake fan club. Ironically, it's not a ground type move that we should be concerned about, with Slowking dealing pathetic damage with it even to Feebas. No, the issue are his stab normal type and his powerful shadow moves. Ursaring Slash deals massive damage, and without other pulls, Aggron is no longer a 1-hit KO like he was in his pre-evolved form, with our best move against it being Hidden Powered Electric. We eventually fall to its recoilless double edge. 𝗟𝗂𝗀𝗀's protect usage is also a bit irregular, taking a few attempts to learn and making us miss crucial moves. On attempt number 2, I managed to get to his last Pokémon, the Shadow 𝗟𝗏𝗻 with only Feebas, but due to bad sleep and attract luck, the Mime Pokémon managed to unleash a Shadow Storm for the KO. On the third attempt, I finally give both our smelly anchovies some leftovers to munch on, but we still lost because of more missed moves, bad attract luck, and just the amount of damage 𝗟𝗂𝗀𝗀 can deal when he attacks us. On attempt number 4, he opened with Slowking and Ursaring. I knew the bear would always protect on turn 1, so I dealt a good chunk of damage to Slowking with Hidden Power Electric and Dragon Rage. On turn 2, Feebas tanked the Slash and the Psychic from Slowking, with our moves putting the bear at low yellow HP. On the next turn, I defeat the Royal Pokémon while Ursaring protected, with Aggron right after losing a big chunk of HP after my Dragon Rage. On turn 5, I dealt the finishing blow to Ursaring, bringing out the Warrain, while Feebas is brought down to low red HP by Aggron's double edge. I attract the seal on the next turn, but things don't go well, as I miss a Dragon Rage on the Iron Armor Pokémon due to protect, and then the seal moves through the Infatuation. Fortunately, it just spurts a not particularly powerful Earthquake that still brought Feebas to only 5 HP. Things are looking bad, but there's still a chance to win this. On turn 7, I defeat Aggron with Hidden Power, while Dragon Rage deals a weak blow to Poliwrath. Honestly, I should have done it the other way around. Warrain once again moved through the Infatuation, and I thought it was all over. But it decided to target Magikarp with Ice Beam instead, for some reason, with the Carp surviving. On the next turn I defeated Poliwrath with Hidden Power Electric, while Magikarp's Dragon Rage dealt a significant blow to 𝗟𝗻𝗻𝗻. Warrain continued to use Ice Beam on Magikarp for some reason. This AI is swag today, I swear. Anyway, on turn 9, I defeat 𝗟𝗻𝗻𝗻 with a combo of Ice Beam and Dragon Rage, with Warrain finally being immobilized by Attract, and now left standing alone. Still, the seal is quite bulky, and even my super effective Hidden Power Electric and Dragon Rage only put it on red health. The seal moved yet again, using double edge on Feebas, but the anchovy survived again with only 4 HP due to a leftovers recovery, despite our pathetic defenses. See, those vitamins we took back on Finnack are actually being quite useful here. Of course, we easily dispatched the seal right after. A surprisingly difficult battle, but we are past another admin. After Gorrigan, there's Colax, the Duck Trio Cipher on the secret back entrance leading to the 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀 Dome, but he was super easy. Right after we pop out, we have the 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀's second son, 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 to face. The 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 has 4 Shadow Pokémon, but unlike with his brother, we have a very good matchup against him. He opens with Ninjask and the Shadow Manectric. Thankfully, Ninjask is female, so I immediately infatuate it, but speed boost means it will eventually outspeed 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀, which could prove to be a problem. Magikarp's Dragon Rage deals pathetic damage to Manectric, who sets up our old friend Shadow Sky, so it's gonna be one of those battles. On the next turn, Ninjask moves, but its terrible attack stat means that its Silver Wind basically didn't even scratch our bulky Magikarp, so we double targeted Manectric for the knockout. Out came Salamence, which lowered our attack with Intimidate, but it's not like we really use that stat for anything. Obviously, the Dragon Flying type is an immediate KO with Ice Wind, so I took the chance to deal some more damage to Ninjask with Dragon Rage. Replacing it was Flygon, who is also an immediate KO with Ice type move. See, this is our amazing matchup working. I continued to target Ninjask with Dragon Rage, leaving it with a Sliver. Out came Marowak, which we once again defeat with Ice Beam and a little up from Dragon Rage. Finally, his Ace Slappers came out. On turn 6, we targeted the Transport Pokémon, but the bulky water type survived the super effective 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 Electric and Dragon Rage. But all it did was set up Shadow Sky again, which actually killed its partner Ninjask. We just easily defeated Lapras on the next turn. Our time at Elders was 12 hours and 3 minutes. A very easy battle since we had such a good move in Ice Beam that shut down almost his entire team. After Elders, all that stands between us and completing the game is the final boss, Grandmaster 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, and his 7 Shadow Pokémon. But can we actually do it and achieve eternal glory? It's finally time to find out. Before we face the old man himself, we have XD001, the Shadow Lugia, to deal with first. Lugia has also historically not been a problem, but the putrid anchovies are breaking every trend we have set before. However, Lugia isn't a problem because of the reasons you might be thinking of. We have super effective Ice Beam for it, and together with Dragon Rage we can 4-shot it. And although its signature move Shadow Blast is quite powerful, it only deals half HP to Feebas. We even managed to freeze Lugia on the first attempt just for style points. So none of that is the issue. No, the problem with the Shadow Lugia is that we aren't healed between this battle and the main 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 battle, which leads to 2 big problems. Our HP will be down due to its Shadow Blast, and our PP isn't restored. Now, as was kind of expected, 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 was quite tough. His team of 6 Shadow Pokémon is no slouch. Not only are the 3 legendary birds, yes, this guy has Articuno, Zapdos and Moltres on his team. They are extremely powerful and they have signature shadow moves that can inflict status conditions. But they also bring another particular problem with them. First, just like Lugia, they all have the ability Pressure, which means our PP will be consumed twice as fast as normal. Usually this ability is more annoying than anything else, but since Magikarp's only viable move even now is Dragon Rage, with only 16 PP, this suddenly becomes a critical issue. Pressure on Lugia means we enter the 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 battle with only 12 PP, which are effectively just 6 usages of the move if we target the birds. Then, since the legendary Pokémon are genderless, we can't use Attract on them. Likewise, Tauros is always male, so the only 2 Pokémon we can use Attract on are Rhydon and Exeggutor. However, the randomness of the shadow genders means we don't even have a guarantee to be able to attract them. At this point I committed to using all my 9 rare candies on Magikarp since I don't think we need to train anymore, and at least I'll make it a little bit bulkier. The problem of starting with lower HP is kind of resolved by putting Lugia to sleep, but this is still not ideal, since Hypnosis has terrible accuracy. After a few more attempts, I quickly realized that Rhydon is quite dangerous with Shadow End, which can KO Feebas instantly. So I started getting rid of it on turn 1 using Ice Beam and Dragon Rage, because the Ice-type move can't get a KO on its own. By the way, I haven't mentioned this before, but XD is actually the first game in the series where what type of damage a move inflicts, so whether it's physical or special, is move dependent instead of being type dependent. However, this only applies to shadow moves. So in this case, Shadow End is a physical move, and since Rhydon has quite a good attack stat, his Shadow End is much more powerful than the Exeggutor's Shadow End, who has a really low attack stat. So that's kinda why Rhydon with Shadow End is more dangerous than Exeggutor with Shadow End, because Shadow End is using their attack stat and Rhydon's attack stat is much higher than Exeggutor's. By combining these two strategies, with this I mean putting Lugia to sleep first and then starting to get rid of Rhydon, I progressed further in the battle than in my first terrible attempt. But I never quite make it past the Articuno. Eventually, I actually realized what I should be doing. On reset 170, I finally got the luck I wanted. We rolled a Rhydon with bad stats and or natures, and so our Ice Beam one-shot it, and the incoming Executor was female. Our Dragon Rage dealt pathetic damage to it, but thankfully Moltres hit Shadow Fire, a special move on Feebas. On turn 3 I attracted the Deformed Palm Tree, which while dealing a quarter max HP to the Firebird, with Dragon Rage, who hit another Shadow Fire on Feebas. On the next turn I finally put Moltres to sleep, dealing another chunk of damage, putting it under half. I take turn 5 to set up Feebas with Call. Magikarp dealt another chunk to Moltres, but Executor moves through the Infatuation and hit Shadow End on Magikarp, which, as I said before, not as powerful as Rhydon's, it still dealt over half HP to us. I take turn 6 to defeat a Firebird, while my Hypnosis misses on Executor. Out comes Tauros. I take the next turn to put it to sleep and use Dragon Rage on it, which looks to be about a 4-hit KO as well. And then on turn 8, I finally run out of Dragon Rage PP due to pressure, so Magikarp is now basically useless, with Feebas being our only damage dealing Pokemon. Although we defeat Tauros with Ice Beam, Executor moves and strikes a Shadow End on Feebas, putting it at only 7 HP. Still, I don't give up, and on turn 9 I put Articuno to sleep, while Magikarp continues hitting it with weak flails. Executor misses with Shadow End, giving us another precious turn. From there, we hit Articuno with Hidden Power Electric for massive damage for the knockout in 2 turns. After Zapdos is brought out, Executor finally moves and hits Shadow End on Magikarp, putting us in the range of a 80 base power flail. However, that move only does pathetic damage to the sleeping Zapdos, and Executor moves again, defeating the Carp. Feebas is left all alone, Zapdos wakes up on the next turn and hits Shadow Bolt for the knockout. Quite a frustrating loss. However, this run wasn't in vain. Instead of resetting, I take the Blackout here. That's right, I'm going to Shadow Lock this battle too. Using this strategy, I solved 3 major problems: pressure, gender, and consistency on Rhydon. I know Rhydon will always be a 1-hit KO because of its bad IVs and or nature. I know I can immobilize the Executor now, and since we don't have to do the Lugia battle again since we have already cleared it, I save 4 precious Dragon Rage PP. And to boot, instead of restarting the game in the Pokémon HQ lab, we actually restart right here in the Grivel Dome, so it's only a matter of the star misaligning. Our path to victory involves one-shotting the Rhydon on turn 1, the birds eating their signature moves on the more specially bulky Feebas, and hopefully not inflicting a status condition, Executor and Tauros using Shadow End on Magikarp and not on Feebas, using Call on Feebas when I get an opening, hitting Hypnosis on every Pokemon I can, hoping for Sleep Luck, and finally Executor should move as little as possible through the Infatuation and sleep. Sounds impossible? Well, Ardos was much more difficult, and I was confident I could do it at this level. We tried this battle many times, but honestly not as many as you'd expect. Only 12 resets, which in the context of this run is puny. The winning battle doesn't even start particularly well, with Magikarp getting hit by Shadow Fire and being left at around a 3rd HP. But then we get a Shadow End miss from Executor, so we manage to clear Moltres while keeping our health intact. On turn 4, we put Tauros to sleep, then on the next turn use Call on Feebas and deal another chunk of damage to Tauros with Dragon Rage. On turn 6, we defeat Tauros with Ice Beam, deal some more damage to Articuno with Dragon Rage, then put it to sleep on the next turn and put it under half HP. Executor misses another Shadow End, so on turn 8 we defeat the Freeze Pokemon, bringing out Zapdos. Executor misses yet another Shadow End, so that's the perfect luck we needed. With Zapdos on the field, I hit it with Ice Beam, dealing well over half, with Dragon Rage just barely missing the KO. The electric Pokemon hits a powerful Shadow Bolt, finally defeating the Carp. However, Executor continues to not move, allowing us to finish off Zapdos with Ice Beam, so the MVP of this run has no problem with defeating the Palm Tree on the next turn. And that's how, fittingly enough, it was Feebas on his own who cleared Pokémon XD with a time of 12 hours, 53 minutes and 27 seconds, with 182 resets, 18 single KOs, 8 for Magikarp and 10 for Feebas, with 10 blackouts. Feebas finished the game at level 83 and Magikarp at level 78. The real time was, well, I don't actually know. As I was writing the script, I realized that I somehow lost the final save file of the run. I still have a backup around Lovrina, but this was still quite annoying. However, judging by the footage, the final time was around 25 hours and maybe an extra 12 minutes or so. With these terrible metrics and this incident with the save file, it's clear that the 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀 deserve their moniker. Oh dear. Finally, at long last, it's time for the Postmortem! Well, this was really silly. 13 hours of my life spent playing with these 2 stupid Pokemon, plus all the time I'm gonna be spending editing the video. Oh god. But honestly, it was very satisfying seeing this through to the end and actually being able to clear the game. Proving Pokémon XD isn't actually that easy when you're using the worst Pokémon in the game. I'm sure everyone's dying to see it, so here's a table with the splits and the metrics of this run. And now for something I want to start doing more often, which is showing off graphs. Comparing the time spent on each split with 𝗂𝗏 and 𝗏, currently the best Pokemon I've played XD with, it's just funny. By the time they finish the game, Feebas and Magikarp are still stuck on Snattle 1. The beginning of the game wasn't that much slower, but starting on Snattle, things started slowing down a lot. The fish also spent nearly as much time on 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀 2, which was a massive wall, remember, as they spent doing the entire Cipher kill air. And then 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀 was just stupid. In total I spent 4 hours just trying to get over that one battle alone. Good gods. Which leads me to the faults per split graph. Here we can see that the problems for these two really started right after Snattle. The resets and single KOs just kept creeping on as the game got progressively harder. We got a small respite during the bulk of 𝗥𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀 Isle, but then 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀 was a complete nightmare, with almost 50 resets on this trainer alone. Compared to him, 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 was downright easy. Finally we have the level per split, and here we can clearly see that Magikarp spent the early and the majority of the mid-game above Feebas' level. But then on Gonzap, at level 41, they equalized, and from then on, Feebas' erratic growth rate kicked in and completely outpaced Magikarp's slow growth rate. If not for the rare candy on Magikarp, Feebas would have finished the game a whopping 17 levels above the Carp. Comparing the level to 𝗂𝗏 and 𝗏 reveals something curious. Our fish weren't actually that overleveled until Zook, because we didn't really do much optional trainings before that split. Remember, at that time we were still relying on the fixed damage from Dragon Rage for most of the battles, and so that's why we didn't really need to do a lot of extra training. But again, that's around the time Dragon Rage started falling off, and we started relying more and more on Feebas' damage output, which only really got any good after Gonzap. So, with all this information put together, what can we take out of this really silly undertake? Well, the 𝗵 𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 did finish Pokémon XD, albeit with a lot of luck, a lot of extra training, cheesy strategies in Attract and Hypnosis, and relying on Dragon Rage for the early game. But I didn't use the whole team, so I guess that's something. Could the game have been completed with Bounce like I initially wanted? I mean, probably. The early game until we got Water Pulse would be extremely slow and painful. But I'm sure with call for setting up our accuracy, it could probably be done eventually, but Dragon Rage is definitely faster and a much better move for the early game. Even at the end, I'm not really sure if Bounce would actually be that useful. Like, at the end, even our 150 base power flails weren't doing that much damage. I guess the paralysis chance would be quite useful, but still, Bounce was a bad idea. So Dragon Rage is much better. Of course, if I could use both Dragon Rage and Bounce and Hydro Pump and Flail or Reversal, that would be ideal, but that's not really the format I'm playing with. As for mistakes and possible improvements, I mean, this run has so many of them it's even hard to list all, but here are a few. The early game could definitely be smoothed out by using Attract much earlier on. I didn't realize quite how overpowered Attract strats truly are, and I'll be sure to keep this move in mind for the future when I'm playing with particularly bad Pokemon. Even Pokemon that are like, not very weak, but maybe struggle with 1 or 2 trainers, Attract could be just the move they need, if they have the moveset flexibility for it, could be just the move they need to like immobilize an opponent and then steamroll the rest of the team. My insistence on not teaching Ice Beam after Mimic ran its course was also quite silly. It's easily our best move and the chance freeze could come in clutch. Likewise, Water Pulse is not really useful after Goregan and Isoleron, so this was the right moment to shake up our moveset and move completely to a nice /electric only moveset. Aggron on Goregan's team is really the only Pokemon who Water Pulse could be useful for, and I guess Golem on Carbon, but Golem is also weak to Ice Beam, and Golem has terrible special defense, so I don't think that could be a problem. Aggron can still be easily defeated with Hidden Power Electric, so yeah, I don't really think Water Pulse needs to remain in our moveset for any later than Goregan. Speaking of freezing, Blizzard strats are a mixed bag. This move just misses too much to be useful, it's quite weak in doubles and the freeze chance is just too rare to be relied upon. It did have a slight niche in the 𝗟𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 battle, but nothing that another move couldn't do better. That said, I never actually remember to use Call to set up Blizzard's accuracy. The problem with this idea is that for Blizzard to be 100% accurate it needs 2 turns of setup, and that obviously is way too much time to be sitting there not attacking. When Hypnosis with the same amount of setup is way more reliable. So Blizzard strats are probably going to be restricted to either Ice types with Stab or Pokemon with Serene Grace. And even then, I mean, you can just use Ice Beam. You get Ice Beam so early on in the game, like Blizzard is only really useful in Finac, And after that, maybe if you really need to freeze, I really want to play with the 𝗟𝗟 and Dunsparce, which both can learn Blizzard and have Serene Grace. That could be really fun. Anyway, I thought a bit about which other hidden power typing could be more useful than Electric, but to be honest, there's really no better alternative. Electric gives us coverage for the bulky water types in the Wailord line, Lavrina's Gorbis and Gorrigan's Poliwrath, and crucially also hits both Moltres and Articuno in Greevil's team for super effective damage. The only other type that does this is Rock, which is obviously a physical type, so it would be much weaker on the specially oriented Feebas. Plus, the steel types are neutral against Electric, so that's another advantage of using Hidden Power Electric. So really, Hidden Power Electric and Ice Beam are perfect for Feebas and Magikarp. I don't think this is exactly anything I could change. That brings me to Natures. Honestly, Flail as a strat just really doesn't work in doubles. It's difficult to set up, even on purpose, and even an adamant Magikarp can't ever deal that much damage with a full-powered Flail. And like, we purposely are putting us on such low HP that, like in doubles, I'm just gonna be targeted. That's kind of the problem. If we had Follow Me and Flail could maybe work. I don't see Flail on its own working. Dragon Rage, despite all its shortcomings, is a much better move than Flail, even in the late game. The Carp relies so much on Dragon Rage that we don't really need an adamant nature, and I think a nature that boosts our weak special defense, something like Careful, would give it much more survival ability. On this note, getting Focus Band on Mount Battle was definitely a mistake. I only saw it activate once, and because Flail is so unstable as a strategy, relying on Focus Band to survive one hit with a 10% chance is just not worth it. We have much better options for the one item we can buy on Mount Battle. Bright Powder lowers the opponent's accuracy by 10%, which, like the Stray Ice Beam freeze, could come in clutch. An extra Mental Herb could also be useful to make the Lavrina 2 fight more consistent. We can also get an extra Mental Herb from a Battle CD, although I'm not sure which one. So that's another option if we really need a Mental Herb and some item from Mount Battle. Then there's also King's Rock, which gives all our moves a 10% chance to flinch, which I think it's less good than Bright Powder, since it can only ever activate once per turn, and we aren't really afraid of our opponents setting up any status moves. I guess King's Rock does make sense if we have moves that hit both opponents, so like something like Earthquake, or Blizzard, or Rock Slides. But even then, for Feebas and Magikarp specifically, it's not as good as Bright Powder, and we aren't really afraid of our opponents setting up any status move, so I don't think King's Rock makes much sense for them. Finally, even an extra copy of Ice Beam could potentially be helpful for moveset flexibility. Speaking of TM moves we can get in Mount Battle, there's also Double Team. Unlike some challenge runs on YouTube, my rules don't explicitly ban Double Team as a strategy, but that's simply because it's usually not available to us at all. The TM costs 4000 points on Mount Battle, which requires a lot of grinding to get, especially in Colosseum. Even if you get it through level up, I tend to not consider it because it's kind of a general sentiment that evasion strats are kind of cheap and boring to watch. However, I will consider it in exceptional circumstances as a last resort, and I don't think there are more exceptional circumstances than using Feebas and Magikarp. However, even in this scenario, Double Team seems kind of useless to me, especially in like a double battle format. A one stage increase in evasion only gives a 25% chance of the opponent's move missing on us. We'd have to go all the way to +3 to have a 50-50 shot. And you know what also grants us a 50-50 shot of moves missing? Attract. Of course, Attract has its fair share of problems, namely only attracting female Pokémon and only mobilizing one Pokémon. But it seems far more reliable and cheaper turn-wise than Double Team. And even then, only Feebas could learn Double Team. So the best case scenario with this strategy would be for Feebas alone to be set up with +6 evasion and no poor opponents who just move all their moves. It seems way riskier than using Attract and keeping Magikarp, as useless as he is, as another target to soak up our opponent's moves and as a user of a decent move in Dragon Rage. But let me know what you think in the comments. Finally, just train on Mount Battle Area 5 and skip all areas above. We don't really need to go any higher than this, and I wasted a lot of time with the shading just stuff and trying higher areas. We don't really need to train anywhere other than Area 5. Other than these mistakes, knowing which trainers will require extra training for and which strategies to use would allow a massive time improvement. I'm predicting around 4 hours. But even then, I don't think this would help a lot with the Ardos fight, the obvious sticking point of the run. I don't think it's possible until Feebas can outspeed and one-shot Swallow with Ice Beam. Magikarp having a special defense boosting nature would help with the special moves, but this battle just required raw damage on Feebas. It might be possible at a lower level, maybe 78, but it will always require major luck, just like the rest of this run. No matter what, this is always going to be very long and very tedious. And honestly, even shaving off 4 hours of playtime would still make this some of the worst Pokemon to play XD with. So, if you're thinking of doing this challenge yourself, don't torture yourself, please. If you've watched this gargantuan video all the way to the end, thank you so much. Many thanks to 𝗟𝗲𝗃 for allowing me to use her remixes in the video, and to 𝗥𝗂𝗏𝗀𝗀 on BlueSky for their incredible Pokemon artwork I use on the thumbnail. Since you're already here at the end, I'm gonna make the same call out I did before. If you liked the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any uploads, and leave a comment with your opinion about the run. And if you want to be even more involved with these videos, consider following my BlueSky. I'm moving over from BlueSky to Twitter, I'll talk a bit more about it in the outro. Or you can join my Discord server, which is the 𝗥𝘂𝗃𝗀𝗀, to be notified when I release a new video, and you can also take part in picking the next challenge run. At this point in time, as I'll explain in the outro, I'm not sure what the next XD playthrough is gonna be. I know the Colosseum one is the 𝗟𝗂𝗀𝗻𝗻. I have played that one, I have yet to write a script and all that. After that, I'll discuss a little bit more in the outro what I want to do with the XD playthroughs, but for now, I'll eventually have a vote on the 𝗥𝘂𝗃𝗀𝗀. All the links are in my description, on my BlueSky, they are on my card. It's easy to both links if you want. And if you're thinking I missed something, yeah, you are absolutely right. Due to some reasons I'll get to in the outro, I never actually did the optional 𝗟𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀 fight after completing the initial run, but I at least wanted to try it, so let's see how we'll do against the 𝗥𝘂𝗋𝗀. Just another side note, since I lost the final save file, technically I'm using a Feebas and Magikarp from backup save file I have, which is on Wolverine, but at that point they already had their EVs maxed out, so the only thing I did was put them on the same level I finished the game at, so it technically wouldn't affect anything. And 𝗟𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀 is kind of an optional bonus battle at the end of the video, so I think it's fine. Let the music play. The first attempt doesn't go well at all, and the reasons are quite evident. This fight seems designed to be a problem for the putrid anchovies. First, the 𝗟𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 are a much higher level than Grivill's Pokemon, and since they are quite bulky by nature, our neutral Ice Beams and Dragon Rage are just barely a 4-hit KO with a range. Then 𝗟𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 are of course grass types, and they know Giga Drain, a move they will almost always go for. Giga Drain deals massive damage to both fish, and it restores their HP to boot, meaning they can effectively stall us out. And then, the final nail in the coffin is that 𝗟𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀 always opens with 2 male 𝗟𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀, so we can't even exploit attracts from turn 1. However, it's not all terrible. 𝗟𝗂𝗀𝗀's AI forces him to always use Rain Dance when there's no rain on the field, and since both of our fish have Swift Swim, he's essentially wasting that move. And on turn 1, one of his 𝗟𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀 will always go for Fake Out on a random fish, which he can actually use to our advantage. I quickly figured out that the best thing to do on turn 1 is set up Call on Feebas. Even if he gets flinched, Call is the first action of the turn, so we don't lose our precious chance to increase our accuracy. And with our extra accuracy in place, I decided to bring our old favorite strategy back. You know what it is, it's Blizzard. Yeah, I know it has never served us well, but maybe with increased accuracy it would actually be better. With a 1 accuracy stage increase, Blizzard now has a 93% chance to hit, which in doubles battles means we now have a 87% chance to hit both opponents, a massive jump from the previous 51%. If my math is correct, that gives us a roughly 13.5% chance to freeze an opponent every time we use Blizzard, which actually isn't that half bad. Now, I don't think you are ready for what happens on this first battle with this strategy, so let's try to take it from here. And even now, Blizzard has like 80-something% accuracy. It's not a lot, but it's... oh god, that's nothing. Ooh, we got the freeze, oh my god. Yay, we got the freeze, let's go. Okay, what can I do with that freeze? Okay. I can't believe I got the freeze on my first attempt. Okay, freeze lasts around 5 turns, but like even like this, like unless I get another freeze. Yes, you're seeing that right. We got 2 freezes, one with Blizzard and one with Ice Beam. The chances of that happening are 1.4%. Yeah, this was super mega lucky. Enjoy that double freeze while it lasts, because I'm sad to say that I completely squandered this opportunity. What I should have done is set up call again, so our hypnosis would be 100% accurate from this point. Instead, I defeated the frozen Ludicolo. It's so funny seeing the usually dancing Ludicolo just both frozen. Instead, I defeated the frozen Ludicolo so Mirror B could bring out the ladies, and then we could use attract on them. Things were going well, but because I didn't hypnotize the second female Ludicolo, and our Ice Beams and Dragon Rages just barely missed the KO, it managed to move, almost killing Magikarp with what else but Thunder Punch. From there, the battle spiraled out of control when both Ludicolo and his team were awake and started inflicting tons of damage to us. I tried the battle at this level a few more times, and although I think it is possible, we definitely need a freeze at some point or some very good sleep luck. So I decided to just increase our level to 100 and do the battle that way. Not only does it give us a bit more damage with Feebas, but it will be very important to give us more survivability with Magikarp, who can now only get half max HP taken out with Giga Drain. On the first battle at level 100, I skip the silly Blizzard strategy and go for the safer Hypnosis. I completely ignore the sleep clause again, putting both male Ludicolo to sleep and slowly chipping away at them with Dragon Rage and Ice Beam, which is now dealing around 2/5 HP or so. I timed the final KO on the first Ludicolo with Dragon Rage, such that the incoming female Ludicolo would be attracted by the slower Feebas. By the way, Feebas is slower than Magikarp here by 2 points, and that's probably because of EVs, because they have the exact same base speed and the same exact stat. Maybe I gave vitamins to one of them at some point, I don't remember. Anyway, Feebas is slightly slower, and that's crucial for this battle. From there, the battle is a slow crawl of putting the Ludicolo to sleep sequentially, keeping a female wall immobilized with a track, and chipping away at them when we have the leeway to do so. When the Ludicolo wake up, they can't help but set up Rain Dance, which gives us a precious turn to recover HP and put them back to sleep. The Shadow Dragonite wasn't a problem at all, being one shot with Ice Beam, and the final Ludicolo stood no chance after that. In the end, the putrid anchovies managed to clear Mirror B as well, and did that crazy double freeze on top of that. I think this was a nice finish for them. With all that said, see ya next time. It's outro time! So, oh gods, today is the 6th of January 2025. I've been recording these scripts since lunchtime. It's now like evening. I'm in my new recording booth. I still don't have like a proper recording booth on anything, but like I'm using like big pillows to isolate the sound, and I have like a blanket on top of me. I think that isolates the sound pretty well. I've been recording this for a while and my voice is starting to get a little bit raspy. I've been recording for, let's see, around 3.5 hours. By the time I finish this outro, it's probably gonna be like 4 hours of recording. Like my voice is completely destroyed. But I'm gonna try and do the outro. I'm also trying to... This is kind of a behind baseball kind of deal. But when I do this off the cuff, these not scripted recordings, I tend to like hesitate a lot. I think I'm gonna... And like I did a video recently, this is going completely off res. I did a video recently where I just randomly recorded like my thoughts about like my favorite anime series. And I didn't write a script and I kind of regretted it because editing out all the flubs and all the mistakes I do and like all the and so's and all that stuff is kind of terrible to edit, and I prefer writing the script because then I can just read it and it's much quicker to edit, and I prefer writing a script. I'm a writer. But I still like to do these outros like off the cuff, so I'm probably gonna start being a little less stingy with like removing all the hesitations in the outros. So it's completely like my unfiltered thoughts. I might just remove like big mistakes or like big pauses, stuff like that. I have to apologize for how much time has passed since I have last released a video. I've been getting a really good momentum and I feel really bad about not using it for anything. As of the time of recording, the Colosseum Magmar Electabuzz, which was the last video I released, has around 1,300, or I guess in American. This is something that annoys me about English. 1,300. Like saying anything between like 1,000 and 2,000, saying as hundreds, that confuses my mind. because that's not how my native language works. Anyway, 1,300 views or 1,300 views, which is quite a lot for a channel with 70 subscribers at the point I'm recording this. So yeah, that's super good. That's quite encouraging to do more of these videos. What basically happens is that, as I complained in the other videos, I have chronic migraines. And the problem is that during like October, November, and the beginning of December, basically like my treatments, which is the only treatment that seems to like control the migraines a little bit. The last time I took it was in June, late June, and then I delayed it until December. Like it lasts 3 months. When it ran out around October, all hell broke loose. Like my migraines got pretty bad. I had a migraine pretty much every day. And like when I say migraine, it's not really just a minor like head pain. It's like migraines which varied between like weak enough to be annoying to really bad. And I basically can't use like a normal screen, and so I couldn't even write the script, much less record. I guess I could record, but I couldn't edit the video, so I just didn't do any work on the Feebas and Magikarp video. The amount of work I put in writing the script was like maybe 30 hours or so. Like this project is just ballooning completely out of control. I'm hoping I can complete it in less than 60 hours. I hope, but it's like a lot of time. This was a really fun run. I guess it was fun, like trying new strategies and whatever. It's just frustrating. Like the problem with Feebas and Magikarp is not that they are weak, is that Magikarp can't really do anything, and like not having different strategies to work with and like only spamming Dragon Rage kind of got boring after a while. So I'm really glad Feebas at least can learn a few TMs. Like if Magikarp had the same moveset as Feebas, that could be like a fun follow-up run. Like if Magikarp had the exact same moveset as Feebas, or the same moveset as maybe like Gyarados, how would that change the playthrough? Because I think then Magikarp could actually do a lot better, and like we could progress a lot more. Like it would still be difficult, but it would still be better. So yeah, I had the migraines. It was a really bad period, like a 2.5 month period where I couldn't really do much. And when I could, I had to like work on my PhD. I'm almost done. At this point, I'm like 2-3 months from finishing it. So I had to use like the little computer time I had to work on my PhD. So that's why this was kind of put to the side. I do have plans for 2025, like now that my migraines are a bit more controlled, like I have taken the Botox treatment in the beginning of December, and now it's in full effect and I can clearly see the difference. Like I still have migraines, but they are, like for example, I had a bit of a migraine this morning, but like I can still work. Oh, and I got a new monitor. I got a new e-ink monitor. Like it was very expensive. E-ink monitors are very expensive, and this is in black and white. So basically, my computer usage from the last, I guess, 3 weeks or so has been in pure black and white on my computer, and occasionally I've turned on the big monitor to like see some things. Although I can't really see color, and I bought this monitor because e-ink color monitors are kind of unstable. This monitor is just like small enough to be useful for work and like to do stuff like writing scripts or writing novels or whatever. It's like the perfect size. Being black and white doesn't really affect anything. For editing the video, I'm not sure. I'm probably gonna have to use like the projector or the big monitor. Now with the ink monitor and feeling overall better with the migraines, I'm confident I can do my videos, and like I have plans for 2025, but I don't really want to reveal them because I don't want to create like expectations on people, saying like I want to do this and then promise one thing and then I can't do it because of my health. So at least expect me to do the best I can to make this channel something self-sustaining. That's kind of like the objective always with pretty much all my side projects. I know it's a very big goal and probably unrealistic, but I legitimately love to play these games and people seem to enjoy my videos. People have been giving me a lot of cool feedback in comments and sometimes personally too. So I hope the channel can at least be like self-sustaining and I can not feel guilty about spending time doing these kinds of videos. So I'm hoping this is the January video. If not, it's probably gonna be the February video. And the thing with XD, right now is that I'm not really sure where to take the game, because I really want to play XD more, but the problem with XD is that the game is so much easier than Colosseum, because we get so much more experience and the trainers aren't really that over-leveled compared to you, so the game ends up being quite easy. And so I don't think I'm going to be using the same format for XD as in Colosseum. And because we start at a lower level, my plan right now is to make XD runs only with Pokemon that can evolve. Although that doesn't solve the problem in the late game, because that's really the big problem is the late game, we'll probably make the runs more interesting. And since we start at level 10, most Pokemon evolve after level 10, so we could kind of see the progression. That brings with it a lot of other problems, like when should Pokemon with trades evolve, stuff like that. Maybe changing the evolution methods specifically for the runs could work. I might look into other, I have ideas for other like alternative strategies for alternative runs for XD, instead of being like duo runs, being like more like challenge runs, like can I play XD without leveling up, or can I play XD without gaining experience, or can I play XD without using any moves other than the move tutor moves or the purification moves, stuff like that. I think those are gonna be interesting runs and I want to play them. But like the main XD series, I'm not really too sure what to do with it. Let me know if you have any ideas on how I can like quote-unquote fix XD, because I think it's quite boring to like play the game with +L and Minum, and like the game didn't offer any challenge whatsoever, because the game ends up being quite easy when you have good moves. Or maybe I just don't have enough experience with XD to like say whether the game is easy or not. Like Feebas and Magikarp obviously are going to be difficult, but we'll like the alternative is either play with the evolutionary lines or just play with first stage Pokemon, which are like weaker by nature, right? But I don't like the idea of not letting Pokemon evolve. I prefer the idea of playing with lines. Although some lines do evolve quite late, like the pseudo legendary, so I'd probably be playing with like Bagon, for example, Bagon and Shelgon for like a majority of the game. Anyway, if you have any ideas for what I can do for XD or like how I can fix it, I've thought about making the enemy trainers harder, giving them like higher IVs, for example. That's not hard to do in code, but that would be changing the vanilla experience of XD. That would be making the game artificially harder. So I don't know, if you have any ideas like, oh yeah, you can do this or that with XD, let me know. I've also completed like a side run, and if you follow me on like my streaming channel, which is Trite Streams, you might have seen the Mew Gen 1 run. This is kind of a stupid idea I had a while back, which is, can you complete Kanto using the worst Gen 1 moves, because Gen 1 has some janky moves? The answer is yes, and I use the Mew because Mew can technically learn any moves. And like that's completely a ROM hack I made myself. Basically, I just changed the TMs you get from the gym leaders to like the 8 worst moves, which I consider to be the worst moves in Gen 1. And Mew started with Constrict and Supersonic, which are like awful moves. So yeah, that run was pretty fun. The second time around I played it was much more fun than when I played it on my own, and I really quite enjoyed the experience. I think it's fun to be using moves that you would otherwise never use. So yeah, that's kind of gonna be another video I have to do. Then there's the +L and Minum Colosseum rerun, which I have done. So that's kind of the 3 projects I have in mind. Then everything else is kind of just in the planning stages. But I hope, like I said before, I hope I can do more runs this year, this 2025. And I hope you'll still watch them, even if I take long times between releases. Oh, also the BlueSky and Twitter thing. So while I was, in quotes, away or sick, Twitter basically started like changing some stuff again. I refuse to call it by the name its current owner decides to use, because it's just a stupid name. It's Twitter. And so BlueSky suddenly started becoming much more of an alternative, and many more people started moving there. And I've been having so much fun on BlueSky, like connecting with different people and like networking and stuff, that I think I'm pretty much gonna be moving over to BlueSky. Right now my account is kind of like all over the place. I talk about novels, I talk about the challenge runs, I talk about my personal stuff. And my Twitter account is kind of a backup. Right now I sometimes post things there, but not really that usual. So I'm gonna start promoting more my BlueSky account, and my Discord server is always there as kind of like a backup. If you want to talk to me personally, the best place is probably the Discord. So 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗀 and 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗀 are both on BlueSky, so you can follow them there if you want. Finally, the last thing I want to talk about in this outro is like the novel I've been talking about since July. I finally finished it, or at least I finished what I wanted to submit to the contest. I ended up not completing it because it had a lot of issues and I wanted to polish what I had. I really think it's the best novel I have ever released or I've ever written. I do hope it wins the contest. I'll let you know. I'll let everyone know if I win the contests. I doubt it. I don't know. At least I hope I get further than I did last year. So that's done, and I've also re-released my main novel, which I've been working for like all my life, in December. As usual, it didn't really like get super popular. Like it got quite a good number of views on Royal Road, which is this site for sharing novels, but it really didn't like get to like the top or like the rankings I wanted, and that are like important for like promotion and stuff. And so that's kind of disappointing, but that's fine. I promised I would write a short story there for my novel. I promised I would write a short story, and I'm still gonna be doing that. And so if you want to read it, you can read it for free. So yeah, that's all I have to say. I've been rambling on for like 18 minutes. God, this video is gonna be like maybe around 2 hours long. Oh my god. So yeah, lots of plans. I hope you enjoyed the Feebas and Magikarp run. As usual, I'll see you when I have another run done. So yeah, thanks for watching it till the end. If you have made it till the end, okay, let's do a code word. Okay, if you've made it to the end here, and you're listening to me now, write down on the comments, write down a comment including the words, let's see, the words, okay, I know exactly the words, but I don't know how to write it. Okay, let's see. Curmudgeon. So curmudgeon is like an old man in a bad mood, so I'm a curmudgeon, and that's actually a trainer class in XD, or is it in Colosseum? Yeah, it's in XD. Curmudgeon. I don't know if I've faced any curmudgeons during my playthrough. I don't remember. But yeah, if you made it to the end of the video, write a comment down below with the word curmudgeon. You can just write the word, or you can like make a comment saying like, oh, Trite, you're being so curmudgeon today or something. So yeah, so just I know that you made it to the end of the video. Anyway, thanks for watching everything. Your support is really important, and see you next time when I have a new video. Bye bye.